A reincarnated girl reaches Geralt, but foreign residents cannot build homes there. The story opens as this cheerful girl pops up, right away hinting that her DIY skills are actually the key to making it in this strange new world. The girl rests in the grass beside her tool belt and a small bird. She finally reaches the city gates, taking in how massive and busy Geralt looks up close. The girl sits at the front desk, while the stable workers stay close beside her. The girl freezes and blurts out a confused, "Huh?" as something unexpected catches her off guard. She can't believe what she just heard, so she makes the worker repeat it, hoping she misunderstood. But the worker seems uncomfortable repeating the bad news. Her eyes widen as she suddenly perks up, spotting something surprising outside the window. She freezes with her mouth open, clearly caught off guard by whatever the worker just said. She stands there totally frozen, the news knocking all her plans out of her head. She finally blurts out how unbelievable it all is. Whatever she thought would be simple in this city, it's clear it won't be. The girl pops up beside the big horse, relieved that she is not alone. She reaches out shyly toward the others. She stands by her pack, holding onto the strap and looking steady, now that the others have. A big, Chapter 1 splashes over a close-up of flowers, marking the real start of her story. Suddenly, she shouts out in frustration, making everyone on the street stop and stare back at her. The worker realizes the girl isn't actually from Perua and tries to confirm her status. The worker tries to make it sound less harsh but admits foreigners aren't really allowed to build houses here, even if it seems open at first. The girl hears that and can only stare, thinking out loud how impossible this now feels. Instead of giving up, she straight up asks how she can become a citizen here, looking for any detail that might give her a shot at staying. She learns it takes 3 whole generations to count as a real citizen, and even if she passes their test, she still can't settle down right away. That news just leaves her stunned by how hard it is for outsiders. Trying again, she asks if she can at least work, hoping that's one way in, but the answer is still complicated. Even working as an adventurer won't really help foreigners get official jobs here, which just leaves her options even more limited. The worker pauses, clearly not sure how much actual advice they can give her at this point. The worker thinks she's just making fun of the rules, but she pushes back, saying she's actually been living as a traveling adventurer all this time. She explains she's spent the last 2 years traveling and working odd jobs just to save up, but now she'll have to give up on living here as a local and instead try the adventurer's counter, hoping that path will at least let her stay. As she stands up to leave, she admits she really wanted to settle here, but after hearing the rules, she has to let that dream go for now. Now, with her decision made, her face hardens as she readies herself to try something else. She storms out, clearly frustrated, as the city worker just watches her go. She looks up as the text calls out where she's ended up. The Labyrinth City, Geralt. We learn Geralt used to be good farmland by the water, and that's why people first decided to settle down here back in the day. As the girl listens, we find out the city only got this crowded and important after they discovered the huge underground labyrinth, which changed everything for the people living here. She fumbles for her guild card at the counter, looking a bit unsure about what to do. One worker quietly hands her a card, showing that they trust her to stay. She glances at the door, realizing she's taking too long and needs to get back outside, since her horse, Peru-chan, is probably waiting and wondering where she is. 2 horses wait quietly in their stalls. The girl hurries over, calling out to Peru-chan and apologizing for making him wait so long, glad to finally see him again after all the official fuss. She feels a weight lift, knowing she and Peru-chan are finally allowed into the city together, and they both head in without more delays. It's already evening, and she realizes every inn is packed, so finding any safe spot for the night, even a stable, is all she can hope for now. She figures the best bet is to just stay at a stable near the edge of the city, settling for whatever they can get, instead of a regular room. They make their way up to a small plain stable house on the outskirts. She's caught off guard when someone tells her she can't go ahead with her plan, and she pushes back, not understanding why. The stable workers explain there are safety rules in Geralt, so certain things she wants just aren't allowed for everyone. One worker tries to warn her about city dangers since she's clearly from out in the country, but she argues that out there, things can feel even scarier sometimes. The girl explains she's used to monsters jumping out and attacking with no warning, which scares the stable boys into realizing why she thinks staying near an exit is safest. Now, the stable worker switches to what city life is like, warning her there are adults around who go after girls traveling alone, and that she really needs to look out for herself at night. When she admits she can't actually book a real room tonight, the group goes quiet, not sure how to help, but clearly worried about leaving her on her own. After the group hesitates about letting her stay, one of the workers finally decides she can sleep by the manager's room, since there's really no other option tonight. The workers promise they'll keep an eye on her and set out fresh straw so she can at least sleep comfortably until morning. The girl lights up and thanks them with a huge grin, just happy to have us safe. Still worried, one of the stable boys offers to tell her where the orphanage is instead, just in case she needs an even safer place than the stable. She heads over to check on the horse, still getting used to how quiet the stable feels. She claps and beams at the horse, glad to have found a safe place. She digs into some bread and immediately perks up, finally getting a real breakfast after a rough. Watching Peru-chan eat, she promises out loud that she'll try to buy some vegetables next time, already feeling a little guilty about just having plain food for him. She thinks about the warning from earlier about bad adults around the city, but honestly, she feels like the biggest threat is still monsters. Even in a city this size, the edges near the walls stay dangerous because monsters sometimes get through. She knows defense magic is her main line of protection here, so as long as she uses it, nobody else can get in. Since she doesn't actually have a magic skill, she has to count on magical paper sheets anytime she needs to keep herself safe. These magical paper sheets let her use spells even with barely any power, so they're her go-to move for staying out of trouble. But every one of those papers is expensive and technically off-limits for kids, so she hides them carefully and uses them only when she has no other choice. She quietly reviews how to use a defense magic paper, figuring out she just has to pour. She stands up next to her horse and packs, ready to go after hearing the warnings. She quietly tries out a little magic as she gets ready to head out, making sure it. Right after the spell takes effect, the barrier fades again, always reminding her how quickly her safe spots disappear. She rushed to the labyrinth city since it was nearby, but now she's worrying she acted too quickly and feels uneasy about not being able to settle here either. Looking down at her last few magic papers, she can't shake off this uneasy feeling about how weak her safety net really is. Without saying a word, she stares ahead and tries to figure out what to do next. All those plans she once made about renting a room or maybe even building a house now feel pretty far off, and it hits her how quickly real life takes the wind out of old dreams. She thinks about her old life and how just having shelter now feels like a luxury. But her whole life got flipped upside down one day once something unexpected happened. She always wanted a simple place of her own, just to have some peace and a normal routine. But all those plans vanished the moment she felt a strange force pass through her body. She wakes up in a place that's nothing like her old home or anywhere on Earth. Her old life ended right then, and she finds herself starting over, reincarnated into this brand new world, clueless about her surroundings. Hitting her 10th birthday, she suddenly remembers being someone else and realizes her whole plan for a normal life is out the window. After wandering for years and scraping by, she finally makes it to this city, but it's clear she's had to fight for every step to get here. Even after making all this progress, she never really feels at ease, and her worries keep following her, no matter how far she goes. She has to admit, every time things feel like they're going to settle down, life throws another curveball and leaves her wondering how she'll handle whatever comes next. Just then, Peru-chan bumps her, snapping her back from her worries. She notices Peru-chan nudging her almost like he's checking in, so she gives him a small grin and assures him she'll be okay. Trying to stay practical, she figures she'll keep doing adventurer jobs and any side gigs until she saves up enough to actually move or get a real room. Looking at Peru-chan, she remembers how they've been together for a year. Even though he looks rough, he's gentle and keeps an eye on her, almost like a protective parent. And that gives her some hope for whatever comes next. Another little nudge from Peru-chan shakes her out of her thoughts for a second. She starts thinking through her options, figuring her small stash of money might last. Otherwise, she'll hustle more side jobs or sell something if she has to. She's clearly focused on getting through the next day. Even if things feel shaky, she decides right then not to give up, no matter how rough things get for her. She curls up on the straw and uses her cloak as a blanket. Lying outside for the night, she tells herself she'll figure something out. Maybe one day she'll have a place to stay and won't have to just scrape by anymore. Waking up the next morning, she stretches out on the straw and realizes it's been a long time since she felt this rested and safe. A farmhand checks if she's making breakfast, but she quickly remembers not to use fire here since it scares the horses, so she skips cooking and keeps out of trouble. A local lets her know there are markets all over, says the closest one is near the outer wall. Someone warns her not to visit the north gate since she's clearly new around here, which only makes her more curious and a bit uneasy about what's waiting there. He breaks it down for her. The north gate is risky because that's where the city's worst slum is, and it's not safe for outsiders. He adds that the north side used to be a military training ground, but after rundown houses took over, the area lost security and turned dangerous for most people. She takes in the warning and thanks him, feeling a little shocked that even a huge city like this still has slums. Now she's more careful about which parts of town she can trust. She figures there's no way she's getting led into a decent place looking this dirty. So before heading out, she decides she needs to clean up. Once she's washed up, she gathers her things, checking that she's packed everything important before leaving for the day. She uses a tag to magically clean herself, finally feeling fresh again, instead of covered in dirt. If she casts cleanse to include herself and her luggage at once, everything gets cleaned together, so she lines up her gear and makes sure nothing gets skipped. She finishes pulling on her boot, then suddenly looks up, caught off guard by something new outside. She checks over her clothes and bag one more time, making sure she looks fine and is ready to face the city. She tells Peru-chan her plan. First, she'll hit the morning market, then head to the Adventurers Guild to deal with paperwork, lining up her day in this new place. Stepping into the market, she's hit by the smell of fresh produce and the noise of busy stalls as people squeeze past each other to buy breakfast supplies. She tries a half-size sandwich, but it's too small. So she skips to the next food stall and spots veggie skewers, 5 for the same price. She grabs a bunch, happy about her bargain. She makes her pick at a crowded food stall. After snagging her food, she can't help but smile at the generous haul. She rushes past a vendor with her arms full, catching the guy by surprise. A vendor notices her amazement at the row of stalls and asks if it's her first time here, clearly spotting how out of place she looks in Garel. She grins and admits this is her first time in such a big city, so the vendor offers to explain how Garel works, kicking off a helpful back and forth. Instead of just one person, a small crowd of locals starts giving her quick tips and explanations, making her feel a little more at home. They run down the city layout. Labyrinth City Garel has 5 main districts. The central and southern districts cost the most to live in, so those are where most people want to be. She finds out the central district holds all the important government buildings and the main guild, while the southern district is where the upper class hangs out, making both areas expensive and harder for newcomers. They let her know the giant labyrinth called Purini sits northwest of town, so the further south you go, the fancier and probably safer it gets. The north side, though, is packed with inns and shops for adventurers, which makes it the busiest spot for visitors and traders. Finally, someone warns her about the slum district right near the city wall, making it clear that's where people have the roughest time living. One of the locals explains that the eastern side of Garel is packed with both shops and private houses, and if you head out toward the edge by the port town, you'll find a bunch of small businesses selling and processing seafood, which sounds pretty lively. Then, someone describes the western side, where stretches of farmland cover the area near the city wall. Fields run right up to the houses, and lots of families out here work as farmers. She hears that this gate sees plenty of wagons coming in, since people from the surrounding villages use it to get to the markets. She pauses and glances around, catching something new about how the city is laid out. When she notices a big passenger wagon rolling up, she starts to wonder if riding in group carriages is actually the regular way to get across town here. One of the locals warns her that traveling with your own horse is actually pretty tough. They make you pay registration fees, and you need permits just to use carriages, so most people skip it and save money by using public ones. The city's travel rules really pile up fast. She can already tell living in Garel comes with a ton of rules. Even thinking about becoming a resident seems tricky, but she decides right then she's not letting go of Peru-chan, even if it makes the application harder for her. But someone else chimes in that if she just walks Peru-chan through the city instead of riding him, she leans in and quietly wonders if she's finally found the right spot. She finally recognizes the big building out front as the main Adventurers Guild, so now she knows exactly where she needs to go next. The chapter title drops in and spells it out. If she wants to survive in this new world, it's all going to come down to what skills she's got. A local happily explains she doesn't need a permit if she just leads the horse, which surprises. The chapter wraps up with a quick mascot cameo and another title splash, doubling down on the need for special skills to survive. Now that she's mapped out the guild and learned the basic rules, her real adventure in Garel is finally starting, with Peru-chan right by her side. The lobby is busy with people checking the notice board and speaking with guild staff. Krisnina steps inside and takes a look around, kind of surprised at how big and serious the Adventurers Guild headquarters feels compared to what she expected. She steps up to the counter and asks about submitting a relocation notice, which is her official way to tell the guild she plans to move into the city. Krisnina looks surprised and a bit lost for a second, thrown off by what she just heard. Not letting the pause slow her down, Krisnina hands over her card and asks again for help. The receptionist apologizes, takes her card, and says she'll handle the process. A staff member checks her name, and Krisnina confirms, clutching her card and looking a bit nervous. Krisnina mentions she got here through the highway and that her last job was somewhere else. The receptionist says she'll confirm those details in their records. The receptionist quickly looks into Krisnina's travel and work history, finding that her story matches everything on file. The setup gets explained. This world tracks everyone's info through magical spirit trees, which honestly just work like a living database for the guild. She spots the spirit tree device and realizes it's kind of like using a tap-to-pay card. Getting checked in or out here is smooth and fast. Only a few rare people have the skill to set up and run these spirit trees, so anyone with that job is treated as someone really special in this world. The receptionist asks if Krisnina came to tackle the Purini labyrinth, but Krisnina wants to know if someone her rank is even allowed in. One of the boys notices Krisnina's been handling jobs really well, and points out her rank is about to upgrade from copper to silver. The receptionist explains that lower-ranked adventurers, like Krisnina, usually join up with higher-ranked teams first, before taking on tough labyrinth jobs, and suggests she find a group. When Krisnina asks about different types of jobs, the receptionist tells her this branch only handles guild work in the central district, or jobs tied to the labyrinth. She realizes she won't be visiting headquarters much, so she asks if there are any archives or free books she can use to study on her own. They explain there's an archive upstairs. She listens and accepts the rules, thinking about how limited her options are here, but knowing what's open to her for now. The advice shifts. Krisnina hears she'll probably learn more by chatting with other adventurers over drinks, instead of sticking to the library route. The receptionist points her to a specific cafe nearby, and suggests Krisnina go chat with the adventurers there, where real stories and tips tend to flow more freely. A woman named Anna introduces herself at the counter, and tells Krisnina she can answer simple questions. Having a friendly face in the guild puts Krisnina more at ease. She realizes she doesn't have to figure everything out on her own. Anna says she'll warn Krisnina if anything comes with extra costs. So Krisnina is relieved and feels more comfortable about asking for help. But Anna makes it clear, Krisnina should stick to asking questions inside the guild where it's safe. Krisnina takes that warning seriously, knowing she'll need to stay careful. The receptionist pauses and suddenly questions whether Krisnina is really 13, saying she looks much younger than that, which throws her off for a second. She gets a casual reminder to eat, and for once, the concern makes her smile, cutting through her nerves just a bit. She moves over to the cafe tables, scanning the room for someone to talk to next. The two boys sit across from each other at the cafe table, taking a second to process. To break the ice, Krisnina orders an ale for someone at another table, showing she's ready to mingle, and hoping it'll get the group talking to her. Wooden mugs sit on the table as the group keeps the meeting casual. One of the boys explains that most jobs people get here are monster hunting or gathering supplies in the Purini labyrinth, while bigger jobs usually go to headquarters instead. The boys point out that most hunters only get tough monster hunts or delivery work for larger shops, showing how jobs can be either risky or boring. He says jobs disappear fast because everything is first come, first served, so their group shows up early just to grab anything at all. Krisnina realizes starting out here is a real competition. She hears that even on days off, teams need to stay sharp. They have to move quickly if they want to get any monster hunting jobs at all. She admits she's thought about skipping all this and trying her luck with hunting outside the city's outer walls for a while instead. A boy warns her that leaving town alone is still risky, even if the outer area isn't as dangerous as the labyrinth. She assures them she has her draft horse with her, sounding pretty sure that's enough backup. He perks up and figures that if Krisnina's horse is sturdy and can sense monsters, she'll do better outside town than heading into the tough labyrinth. The boy lets her know if she wants to hunt in the forest beyond the outer walls, she'll have to follow the rules set by the Western District branch. He scribbles a note for her, giving Krisnina something useful for dealing with the Western District. The boy tells Krisnina to take the note with her and says his friend is stationed in the Western District. She can ask him for help if anything comes up. She learns the friend's name is Ife, and he's from the Kijin tribe, so now Krisnina has a clear contact for backup. He admits Ife looks tough, but is actually kind and doesn't judge people, so Krisnina shouldn't worry about asking for help. The boy reassures her by saying he only wrote a short note for Ife. Nothing weird or embarrassing, just a simple request. He explains his crew is stuck at headquarters, so they can't help her directly. He just hopes she won't push herself too hard out there. She holds the note and realizes even one piece of paper is precious here, so she needs to hang on to it. She gives a big thank you, showing how relieved and grateful she feels for their support. The boy gives Krisnina an easy smile and tries to make her feel at home. The boy gives her an easy smile, just trying to make Krisnina feel welcome after everything. She walks out of the building with the note, while the others watch her head off. She thinks about how Anna and Kane were both so nice to her, which makes the city feel a little less scary. She notices it's already lunchtime, and she hasn't found a place to sleep, so finding an inn becomes her next big goal. With her heavy pack, Krisnina steps into the street to start looking for a place to stay. She takes a detour through the northern district, hoping to spot an inn along the quieter side streets. She weaves through narrow alleys and cracked stone buildings, the unfamiliar maze making her even more nervous as she searches for someplace safe. She passes boarded-up windows and creeping vines, noticing how run down and forgotten this area feels. She sees the patchwork repairs and clutter everywhere. Even though it's a mess, she can't help but grin. She actually finds this wild, messed up street kind of exciting. She stands quietly, her mind drifting as she absently brushes at her coat, finally at ease. Outside, the old bridge arches overhead, while boarded windows and cracked walls show how neglected this part. She sizes up the rickety old inn, and immediately thinks it might fall apart, already doubting her choice to stay here. She can't stop staring at all these shaky buildings and bridges. She keeps thinking how easily they might collapse if anything bumped them. She realizes her brain keeps picking out these flaws because of her house-building skill, so every crack and patch in the wall practically jumps out at her now. She suddenly panics and realizes she still doesn't have a place to stay, so now she's scrambling to find an inn before it gets too late. She remembers the farmers she met this morning at the marketplace, who mentioned an affordable inn near the outer wall, which gives her a real lead to chase down now. Nina learns the inn is family-run and supposed to feel cozy. Plus it's cheap because it's tucked out by the outer wall. She perks up when she finally spots what she's been looking for in the room. She stops to read the sign, Spirits Perch Inn. Seeing the exact name from the farmer's advice makes her sure she's found the right place this time. A woman comes out to the doorway, asking if Nina is here about a room, and the straight-up greeting helps break some of her nerves. She quickly explains she's hoping to stay for a while, dropping the travel act and letting the innkeeper know she needs a long-term spot. The innkeeper looks surprised when she realizes Nina is this young and traveling alone, but softens as she mentions how tough the trip must have been by herself. She actually laughs in relief, happy to have a real customer, and her friendly welcome makes it way easier for Nina to settle the details and feel less like an outsider. A staff member shows Nina where she can tie up Peruchan, her horse, and reassures her that their son Loki will take care of him while she gets inside. Nina checks out her new room, looking excited as Anna watches her settle in. She's new room is simple but clean, and she finally has a quiet place to rest. Anna lets Nina know she can always ask for help if she needs anything. And Nina finally relaxes a little, realizing she's actually welcome here. She sits on her bed and lets out a slow breath, finally starting to unwind. She falls backwards onto the bed, laughing and relieved, feeling like she can finally rest without having to worry about her next move. Stretching out, Nina thinks about how far she's traveled from her tiny old hometown, and the long road behind her makes finally getting here feel even more real. She goes back in her mind to the day everything changed, the day of her birthright at age 10, which turned her whole world upside down and shapes why she's here now. She explains to herself how the birthright ceremony works. Priests bestow your true name and potential skills at birth, which pretty much decides your whole path growing up. Most kids learn their name early and start out with at least one skill, sometimes two, and by adulthood, almost everyone has three, making life much easier for them than for anyone who never gets the ceremony. She quietly remembers her own childhood. Her father wouldn't give her a temporary name, so she stayed nameless, and out in their distant village, no priest ever came to perform her free birthright or reveal her true skills. The memory of her father shouting slams back. He calls her useless and throws something in anger, making her flinch at how she's never mattered in her own home. She drops her head and quietly apologizes to her father, still weighed down by old guilt. Her father says she can stay for now, but threatens that if her skills turn out useless, he'll sell her off to anyone who'll take her. Most people get actually useful abilities, but skills like cleaning or chores are looked down on as basically useless dud skills that nobody wants. Anyone who only has one or two small skills by adulthood stands out for all the wrong reasons. The village actually calls them useless. Nina grows up knowing she's always being watched and judged for what she can't do. The village began as a penal colony run by unwanted people who had nowhere else to go. Her mom died while she was still a little kid, so she grew up without any comfort or support at home. After that, her dad pretty much stopped talking to her and acted even colder than before, so being at home meant feeling totally alone. She remembers sitting by herself, holding back tears and just wanting anyone to care about her. The only time she felt okay was when she got to help the old witch who lived near the village. Those visits were her one escape from everything at home. But then, everything changed. A priest stopped by one day and let her finally try the birthright ceremony, something she'd never been allowed to do. The priest finds Nina alone and hands her a sealed paper, starting the official ceremony. The priest finishes the ceremony, announcing Nina's name and revealing her special skill is just house building. She tries to hide her shock, but her disappointment is all over her face. When her house building skill gets revealed, the guy totally flips out, calling it useless and a dud. The priest crouches down to check on her, but Nina won't look up, feeling crushed. Suddenly, Nina's mind races. She blinks, sits upright, and feels like something major is clicking together at last. Ever since she was small, Nina sensed she didn't fit in. but now she's sure. There's something about her that just doesn't belong. Then it hits her. She remembers being someone named Kurisu in her past life. The weird gaps in her memories suddenly make sense. She's been reincarnated. She remembers her father, furious and shouting, warning that if she turned out useless, he'd sell her off. That threat hung over everything she did. She stares off as the fear of being thrown away finally sinks in. Staying in that house starts to feel impossible, since now she sees her dad might leave her behind. Her mind flashes with the witch's secret technique, hinting she's about to pull off something clever. She starts wondering if her father would really sell his own kid, and realizes deep down she can't be sure he wouldn't. That possibility leaves her feeling even more alone and out of options. She finally gathers her courage and asks the priest for help, hoping for a way out, and thankfully, they decide to take her away. So Krisnina sets out on her own for the first time, determined to find someplace she can actually belong, a real start to a new chapter. But out in the wild, she quickly learns that monsters here are deadly, and ordinary skills aren't enough to stay safe. Still, she holds on to hope. Maybe her memories from her old life and what she's learned so far can help her survive, even if her skill looks weak. She digs into her coat pocket and pulls out a card, thinking she's still got one more. She remembers the special technique the witch taught her, realizing it might be just what she needs to make it here. She flashes a mischievous grin and fans out her cards, clearly scheming her next move. She reminds herself that even if this world is strange, her know-how from building houses could help her survive here. Chibi Krisnina gives a sly smirk and clutches her cards, totally satisfied with her secret plan. The chapter closes by highlighting how Krisnina relies on her simple skills to make a spot for herself in this tough place. Peru-chan shows up in the background, making it clear he's sticking with her no matter what. Krisnina pumps herself up with the idea that making and selling magical paper will be her ticket to earning money, even though the skill is supposed to be specialized. But every sheet takes a ton of effort for her. People who are born with this gift make it look easy, but for Krisnina, copying the designs is tiring and slow, like she's pulling an all-nighter just to finish a simple page. She remembers how rough it was training with the witch, since she kept failing again and again back then, and it never seemed to get easier. She pauses, mulling over the idea that anyone can master magical skills if they just keep trying, even if it's slow going for her. She shrugs off the bad offer, thinking she actually enjoys detailed projects like this. And since there's not much else to do here, making paper is a great way to stay. After a long stretch of practice, Krisnina finally stacks up 10 magical sheets, ready to hit the market and see if anyone will actually buy them. She sets aside enough for herself before selling the rest, figuring it's smart to keep a few sheets just in case she needs them for her own magic situations. She points out these aren't regular sheets. They're a smaller witch-made version that's easy to carry or hide, making them way more useful for a starter like her. While she works, she dreams even bigger. Maybe she can save up enough from selling paper to travel, or even find a real home where she can finally settle down and stop scrambling for jobs. She starts thinking about what a long journey would actually need. Sleep, comfort, maybe even her own carriage so she's not stuck on the ground or sleeping rough. It's not just about escape. It's about actually living well. The plan suddenly makes sense. A carriage could basically be a rolling house and let her carry everything she owns. Just the thought of it gives her a little hope. Seeing it that way, Krisnina wonders if she could actually use her unique skill inside the carriage, just like when she was growing up at home. We jump to a memory. Krisnina remembers when the witch once trusted her to repair the lumber shed, marking one of her first big tasks. At first, fixing anything that big seemed way out of her league. Krisnina had zero confidence. She'd never handled something as serious as repairing a whole lumber shed before. Right then, Krisnina stops and listens as something in the background distracts her. A mouse darts across the floor, snapping her attention away from her worries for a second. She spots the mouse and wonders if maybe it actually lives here, which gets her thinking about seeing this old problem in a different way. Looking around, Krisnina notices the lumber shed works for mice the same way a house works for her. Everyone needs a safe spot. That house idea really clicks, and suddenly her thoughts about her magic and this place line up. In that moment, Krisnina figures out exactly what the shed needs. Fresh ideas and a clear fix just come to her, like a switch flipping on. Before she even knows it, her hands are moving on their own, starting repairs on the old wood. It feels automatic, like her skill is finally doing its thing. She shows up at the Adventurers Guild, ready to try again and prove she can sell her. She notices her ability always kicks in when she thinks of a place as a house. That simple thought triggers her magic, whether she plans it or not. When she looks at the mouse, Krisnina realizes it's actually made this shed its real home too. She insists that if someone wants just one sheet, she can make it fast. She stops right in her tracks, distracted by another sudden noise nearby. Real excitement starts to build for Krisnina. She finally feels special, like her weird magic is actually good for something real. Now that it all makes sense, Krisnina gets fired up and decides to use her newfound skill to earn money and carve out a place for herself in the world. Krisnina figures that a big city like Geralt must pay well for magical goods, so she decides to bring her homemade magic paper to the Magic Guild, hoping they'll give her a decent price. A guild worker double-checks if Krisnina is trying to sell them the magic paper, making sure she's actually serious about her pitch. She lights up, proud to finally announce that she made the magic paper herself and eager to prove what she can do. Right away, the man wants to know if Krisnina actually has the inscriber or mage skill required for magic paper. She admits she doesn't, her confidence slipping a bit. The man gives Krisnina a doubtful look, not buying her claim about making real magical paper. He says he'll buy her paper, but only for 3 silver coins, which is much less than Krisnina expected, and leaves her rattled. Trying to give her one more shot, the man asks to take a closer look at the paper before they decide anything else. When the man claims paper made by someone without the right skill has no value, Krisnina decides she's done trying to make a deal with him. She remembers how other towns bought her paper even without fancy skills, and that gives her a new idea about where to try next. She reaches the Adventurers Guild headquarters, ready to find someone who'll actually value her magic paper. Krisnina bursts in and goes straight to Anna, letting her know she wants to try selling her magic paper instead. She tells Anna about the lowball offer and wonders if the Magic Guild would pay more for her work. Anna seems surprised at how fired up Krisnina is over the whole thing. She checks out Krisnina's magic paper and finally gives it some real respect, saying the patterns are drawn beautifully. Feeling recognized, Krisnina jumps on the chance to start real negotiations with Anna. Krisnina sits across from Anna and Watts at the table, quietly mulling over their new proposal. A new man introduces himself as Watts, the appraiser, and steps in to help judge Krisnina's magic paper, giving her a real shot. He looks over the paper with surprise, realizing just how serious their pitch for Krisnina is. After checking everything, Watts says her papers are all advanced magic quality, even pointing out a few types he didn't expect to see. Anna looks to Watts for the final word, and he says there aren't any problems. Everyone agrees the papers are perfectly fine. With quality settled, Krisnina moves them straight into the price talk, pushing to see what she can earn. Watts explains the usual rates: 8 silver coins for beginner magic and 1 gold coin for the intermediate level. She can't help blurting out that those prices sound pretty cheap to her, starting a real negotiation. She quickly learns that selling through a shop means paying a bigger fee to the commercial guild. Those are the rules and there's no way around it. He explains that if Krisnina isn't a guild member, selling through the commercial guild makes things even tougher, adding extra rules and higher taxes. She points out she's already part of the Adventurers Guild, so making deals here means less tax for her and a better deal overall. He grins and says he's heard she's smart, and he's impressed to see her figure out the best way to sell. Anna jokes that it's no shock she likes Krisnina, but when Krisnina looks confused, Anna just laughs it off. He gets serious again, and says he wants Krisnina to start making regular deliveries as an official supplier, moving her one step closer to financial stability. He lays out the deal. If Krisnina can deliver magical paper once every week, she'll get a bonus and set prices for upgraded sheets, turning this into a serious opportunity. As she hears the terms, Krisnina realizes steady sales here could finally give her real income and let her stand on her own. She lights up at the offer and quickly agrees, saying she's totally in and not even trying to hide how excited she is. Krisnina pops up from her seat, grinning with excitement now that her hard work is paying off. She leans forward at the table, finally letting the reality of the new deal sink in. Wanting everything clear, Krisnina points out that since these are official requests, missing a delivery could get her in trouble, so she asks for an exception if she gets sick or overloaded at work. He nods, happy she already understands the risks, and agrees to her terms. He moves ahead to formalize things, telling Krisnina to hang tight while he sets up the paperwork for their agreement. A server brings over a drink, and Krisnina pauses as Anna gestures for her to take it. He looks right at her and says she's honestly grateful Krisnina came to them. They really do value her skills. She admits they're usually stuck paying high prices to the Magic Guild for paper, so Krisnina's offer helps both sides more than she first thought. Krisnina figures out that most local adventurers rely on a steady source of magical paper, and whoever controls those sales has a clear advantage. The group explains the real problem. Geralt's labyrinth forces adventurers to use tons of magical paper just to make it out alive. Anna spells it out. Magical paper is a key lifeline underground, saving energy and letting people retreat when things go wrong. And Krisnina realizes how big a deal her work could be. Thinking about the actual danger, Krisnina wonders if she should focus on making even more barrier papers for everyone heading into the labyrinth. She checks with the others to see if basic support spells, like healing or body boosts, would help, trying to figure out what papers are really needed. She finds out that support magic is in demand, since most adventurers only learn attack spells and rely on outside help for everything else. But Watts jumps in to say they'll always need strong attack papers too, especially for deeper areas. Still, for now he thinks Krisnina should keep supplying support spells while their team focuses on fighting. He explains how monsters get stronger the deeper you go, but sometimes even the top levels break out in attacks, putting everyone in danger and making the city nervous. He points out that when monsters swarm, advanced magic is their last defense. Krisnina understands now why everyone feels so much pressure to stay prepared. Anna surprises her by covering her taxes as a one-time bonus, and Watts handles the extra payment, making this offer even better for Krisnina. Krisnina blurts out that the deal seems almost too good, but Anna admits they're just lucky things lined up when they did. Anna explains the Magic Guild has been holding back supplies lately, so Krisnina's timing couldn't be better. They'd been hoping for exactly someone like her to fill this gap. He tells her straight, they want Krisnina as a long-term supplier of magical paper. He makes sure Krisnina knows she can come to him or Anna for help if she ever gets stuck, which helps her feel like she's not on her own anymore. She says their support isn't just about business. They'll be there for Krisnina with any problem she might have. Krisnina beams and thanks the guild staff, and you can tell everyone's relieved. She finally landed what she needed from them. So now the guild folks are quietly happy to see her succeed, and she's got support for her next step. For the first time since she arrived, Krisnina actually feels seen for her talents and is genuinely happy to have real allies. She says straight up that the team is counting on Krisnina now, so Krisnina is not just getting help, she's actually needed as part of the group. She turns from the job board, spots someone she needs to talk to, and immediately gets their attention, admitting she actually has something on her mind she wants to ask about. So whatever just happened at the board now leads her to reach out for help or answers. She brings up that she wants to buy a used carriage, hoping it'll make life in the city easier for her. Right then, Anna offers to write Krisnina a letter of introduction and tells her to head to Gaoris, pointing her straight at her next step. She explains that Gaoris runs a lumber shop where all kinds of old wooden stuff shows up, so finding a used carriage there should be pretty easy. She lights up as she holds her new letter, realizing she's finally making progress on her own. Anna brings up the Western District Guild branch and checks if Krisnina has signed in yet, catching her a little off guard with that to-do. She explains that, as a bronze rank, Krisnina has to take at least one job from the guild every 2 weeks to keep her status in town. If she skips out, she'll be seen as a rogue and could get kicked out of Gorel. Krisnina suddenly remembers just how important this rule is. Krisnina heads into the Western District Adventurers Guild, ready to check in and sign up for a job to keep her license active. She walks up to the counter at the guild. The horned man from earlier sits back down, takes a drink, and keeps to himself. She heads over to the counter, ready to officially get started at the guild. The horned man suddenly rises from his table, immediately grabbing Krisnina's attention. She looks over the guild job board, thinking through which job will be her first in this new city. She checks out the options and figures collecting herbs in the woods sounds better than farm work or being a guard. Suddenly, the horned guy steps in front of Krisnina and blocks her from the board, calling her the runt named Chris. His words sting, making her tense up, while Anna stands by and watches what happens next. She looks up at the guy, confused about why he's stepping in her way. The horned guy stands his ground in front of her. Krisnina hesitates, trying to read his mood since he just cut her off from the board. She locks eyes with him, not backing down, and she knows what she says next could shape her spot in the guild from here on out. Right away, Krisnina steps up and introduces herself, wanting to get things started. Watts looks her over and points out how small she is, making the size difference pretty awkward. She just freezes, surprised by how blunt he is. After seeing how she reacts, Watts starts to realize his comment probably didn't land well. She gives Watts a hard glare, clearly annoyed about being called tiny. She keeps staring up at him, thinking it's a pain to even look that far up. For a second, Krisnina blanks out, trying to shrug off the awkwardness. Instead of arguing, she grabs some paperwork, looking ready to move on. Krisnina storms away while Watts scrambles to catch up and calls out for her to wait. Watts explains he's here because Kane asked him to look after a girl named Chris, so there's nothing weird going on. Just a favor for someone else. Krisnina hands over the form and asks about a herb gathering job, but the woman at the desk double-checks to make sure she really wants that. She jokes about reporting Watts for being suspicious, and he's left stunned and without a comeback. Watts tries to defend himself, saying he's just helping her because someone asked, but Krisnina teases him back, clearly not believing his story. Yuria steps in between them, breaking up their bickering before it gets worse. He hesitates, looking embarrassed after getting called out. Yuria reminds Watts that Chris is a polite girl and lets him know acting full of himself just makes things more awkward. She's gently telling him to chill out. Her mood shifts and she admits she overreacted, apologizing to Watts and taking some tension out of the air. Watts owns up too, saying he acted immature, and they both trade quick apologies, so things smooth out between them. Yuria wishes Krisnina good luck at work, and Krisnina thanks her for the support. Watts asks if she's off to start the job right away, but Krisnina says she actually has other things to handle and won't start until tomorrow. They sort out their plans, now calmer. Even though Krisnina claims she doesn't have any real problem, she still agrees to meet up later to talk, if needed. Her thoughts race. There's something much more important she has to take care of first. At the carriage shop, Krisnina explains she wants to buy a used carriage and fix it up as a house carriage. The workers look surprised, not expecting a newcomer to roll in with such a bold plan. The carriage shop workers pause, unsure if she's being serious. She reassures them that she's got the house-building skill, so her plan really can work. She comes across as super sure of herself. A worker asks about the house-building skill, still confused about what Krisnina can actually do. The shop worker thinks it over for a second, then nods and says he understands. One worker waves Krisnina over to check out a carriage. She and the worker inspect a battered old carriage and check how much work it needs. The worker points out 2 carriages Krisnina could afford, but says there's a third one if she's willing to spend a bit more, hinting at a special option. She spots a carriage she actually likes, getting genuinely excited as she checks it out. The worker tells her that this old wagon used to haul cargo long distance, but after getting turned into a city carriage, it's too big and heavy for anyone else to want, except Krisnina, who sees something the others don't. She gets excited at the idea of buying it. But right as she starts imagining the upgrade, the worker asks how she plans to actually move a carriage that size, putting her on the spot. She tells the worker she'll pay to use their space, since she wants to fix up the carriage right here instead of having to move it. The worker quickly goes along with her plan. He says Krisnina can use the workspace and tools for free, as long as his apprentices get to watch, since it's rare to see a house-building skill in action. As soon as Krisnina mentions her house-building skill, the worker gets curious and admits he's pretty interested in seeing what she can actually do. She thinks back and realizes most of her magical paper money is about gone. Getting the carriage on a payment plan helps, but she knows she'll have to keep working hard to stay afloat. Not long after, Krisnina leaves the city gates with Peru-chan, looking a little dazed as the city fades behind her, and she starts out on the road. One of the workers notices Krisnina, and honestly sounds surprised she actually showed up like she promised. She reminds the worker she said she'd come, proving she keeps her word, and the worker quietly accepts her return, making things a bit friendlier between them. The worker explains he wants to talk, because Kane asked him to keep an eye on her, making Krisnina realize that someone else is looking out for her in the background. He explains why everyone's so worried. Security around here has gotten worse, and just the other day, a young child was kidnapped, putting the whole area on edge. It turns out one kidnapped kid did get rescued, but another child who went missing 6 months ago still hasn't been found, so the fear and tension are still hanging over the neighborhood. Krisnina wonders aloud why an adventurer is handling this instead of city guards, but it's obvious there's not enough official help to cover the problem. Because there aren't enough guards, the worker says he's acting as a part-time lookout to fill in the gaps, showing just how understaffed things have gotten. An older adventurer points out that high-ranked people are supposed to help train new recruits, not just chase solo missions, making Krisnina realize the job comes with extra responsibilities. Watts admits he only has free time because things are slow, but when Krisnina flashes her gold card, both he and Peru-chan are stunned. She turns out to be way more impressive than they thought. Everyone around them realizes Krisnina is not just gold-ranked, but also a swordmaster, which is a big deal and quickly raises their respect for her. One worker points out how rare it is to meet someone with her skills. Then the group gives a little wave as Krisnina heads out, the mood shifting into curiosity. Suddenly, Krisnina spots something ahead and reacts with surprise, snapping everyone's focus back to her. She calls out for Watts to wait, stopping him in his tracks, right before she rushes off toward her horse. Krisnina rushes over and climbs onto her horse in one quick burst, barely slowing her stride. She swings herself onto Peru-chan with no trouble, getting ready to take off. Now that she's up and settled, Krisnina apologizes to Watts for the holdup, trying not to slow down the mission any more than she already has. Peru-chan, still reacting to the earlier insult, huffs loudly as Krisnina sits firmly on his back. He blurts out that he can't jump on a horse like she does, and feels a bit embarrassed at how easy she makes it look. Krisnina laughs and admits she usually needs a leather ladder to climb up, but everyone teases her for looking like a cicada, so Watts can't help but chuckle as he asks what she does when there's nothing to grab onto. She threats to leave Watts behind if he keeps dragging his feet, swinging Peru-chan around to get moving. Watts just snickers at her, not bothering to hurry. Krisnina kicks off hard, sprinting forward and jumping up onto Peru-chan in one quick move. As Krisnina settles on her horse, she apologizes for the delay, and Watts admits her mounting struggles sound rough, which takes the edge off things between them. She tries to play off her embarrassment, but still points out that Watts has a clear physical advantage thanks to his Kijin blood, which helps with stuff like this. Curious about how Watts has so much free time, Krisnina guesses it's because he wrapped up something major, and she presses for details about his latest adventures instead of letting him dodge the question. He explains that his team recently tried to reach the lowest floor of the underground labyrinth before any other group could beat them to it. He says there's a dungeon rule that lets each clan challenge the labyrinth for only a month at a time, so no one can sneak ahead, meaning Watts has a 2-month break right now. She is surprised that everyone really follows the rules and jokes that it just sounds like collusion. He is confused and asks what collusion even means, showing he's never heard the word. She explains, it's basically a fair play agreement. Everyone sticks to the rules, so one group doesn't secretly advance deeper than the rest. Watts hears this, finally makes sense of her explanation, and the two ride on comfortably for a bit. The path gets quiet as the forest stretches in front of them and they keep moving forward. Out of nowhere, giant rats burst from the bushes, turning the peaceful walk into a sudden brawl. He reacts first, kicking away the rats as they attack. He fights them back before they get too close. While Watts handles the monsters, Krisnina calmly gathers herbs nearby, unfazed by the fight. Watts jokes that watching her pick plants while he handles monsters actually makes him feel pretty safe right now. He points out that going so deep in the mountains alone is dangerous, but Krisnina shrugs and says having Peru-chan with her is enough. Watts doesn't totally buy it, saying Peru-chan is just a horse, and wonders if that's really enough protection. Krisnina says Peru-chan is offended, and the horse actually looks kind of insulted. She then brags that Peru-chan isn't an ordinary horse. He's got dragon horse blood, which should make him special. He shrugs off the whole issue, saying he can handle monsters like these rats with his bare hands, so there's no real danger anyway. She admits she isn't quick or typical adventurer material, but she points out her grip strength and back power are better than people expect. She grabs a giant rat with one hand and snaps its neck without even trying. Watts finally admits Krisnina is pretty tough, and she just tosses the rat aside, acting like it's all normal. Krisnina laughs and says her strong core helps her carry heavy stuff, which catches Watts off guard. He can't decide if she's kidding or serious. Watts asks if her strength comes from her family, hinting maybe she has dwarf blood or some other trait that gives her an edge. He also teases her about her height, but Krisnina gets annoyed and tells him to knock it off with the short jokes. Trying a different angle, Watts says Krisnina looks completely human and asks if she's a mix of something else. She's not sure. Her past is kind of a mystery even to her. She explains her dad was human and her mom was small, but probably not a full dwarf, so she's not even sure how much dwarf blood she has. She sounds a little unsure about her own background. He smiles at Krisnina, relieved their wild hunt turned out to be nothing serious. He tells her he gets it, showing he actually understands what she's saying, and adds a gentle head pat to back her up. He admits he's half human too, but says explaining his family would be a pain, so he just goes with calling himself Kijin. Opening up a little, he lets her know she's not the only one with a mixed-up family. He gets another head pat and just sits there, feeling a bit awkward about the whole thing. Now, Krisnina starts wondering if Watts is treating her like a little kid or distant cousin instead of a true teammate, especially after that gentle pat. Everything goes quiet for a moment, with only the treetops in view, while the conversation drops off. She grins and shows off 2 huge bags full of stuff she collected, proud of the haul she managed to carry by herself. The silence lingers as the trees sway, the team taking a quick breather before the next move. Watts calls out that he's got a solid haul of monster tails as well, holding them up as proof. Krisnina jumps in, eager to help with the heavy lifting. Suddenly, Peru-chan and Watts lock eyes, both sensing something new might be happening. Krisnina asks if a monster is nearby, but Watts isn't sure, making them both a little wary as they watch their surroundings. She looks at Peru-chan, notices he seems relaxed, and figures nothing dangerous is about to happen, so she lets her guard down. He spots something strange ahead, a figure that isn't quite human, and not exactly a monster, and it's being chased by a bunch of small monsters. Her eyes go wide when she sees the weird creature for herself. She gets excited, hoping that maybe what she's seeing could actually be a fairy. Watts looks confused and asks why Krisnina is suddenly so pumped about the creature, not sure what's got her so fired up. Krisnina suddenly jumps in with a plan to help, catching Watts off guard. Watts tries to stop her and points out they don't even know what the creature actually is. But Krisnina barely listens and barrels ahead anyway. She stops at the brush and says that if the creature is a fairy, she really wants to meet it. The idea brings back something a witch once told her, making her even more eager. She and Watts poke through the undergrowth, looking for the creature. Finally, Krisnina spots movement and quietly points out the strange creature hiding nearby. When they finally see the creature up close, it's just a plain little bird, surrounded by much. Krisnina finally gets a clear look, and realizes the mysterious creature is just a tiny, harmless bird. The story's title flashes across the panel, pausing the action after their little fairy chase fizzles out. Krisnina and Watts are left standing together, both realizing the excitement is over. As soon as Krisnina and Watts figure out the so-called fairy was just an ordinary animal, the main title comes up and the story cuts off, reminding everyone this fairy hunt was a total mix-up from the start. Krisnina notices a small bird hiding in the branches and wonders if it was the one being chased earlier, suddenly making it her responsibility. A voice tells Krisnina to help the little bird, and she instantly agrees, stepping toward the tree to see what she can do. She crouches down, calling the bird over with friendly chirps, hoping it will trust her enough to come closer. The little bird perches quietly on the branch, half hidden by leaves, and still curious about Krisnina nearby. She tries to get the little bird to trust her, but it just isn't interested in coming closer, so she figures wild birds just aren't that easy to befriend. She freezes when the little bird lands directly in front of her and steals her attention. She finds the tiny bird adorable, completely distracted by how cute it looks as it chirps at her. She grins quietly, soaking up the sweet moment with the little bird close by. Curious, Krisnina wonders out loud if the bird can really understand her, even joking if maybe it's actually a fairy in disguise. The little fairy bird just sits on the branch and makes a soft PPP sound. Peru-chan sticks his nose right in. She assures the bird that Peru-chan only eats plants, so it's safe with them for now, which seems to calm the bird down a bit. She asks if she can take care of the bird herself, and once her companion gives the okay, she thinks she might get to keep it. Peru-chan studies the bird, realizes it's actually a stray fairy, since there are no spirits around, and the small fairy chirps right back at him, pointing out the fairy's silly blank stare. The young man wonders if it's rude to say that, but Krisnina laughs and says fairies don't mind being teased. Krisnina explains that spirits are rare and serve the gods, while fairies are way more common and are treated more like family by everyone. Since the fairy doesn't have a spirit to watch over it, Krisnina asks if it wants to stick with her instead from now on. The fairy opens its wings, gives an excited chirp, and clearly loves the idea of joining Krisnina. She is surprised by how quickly the fairy decides, shouting in shock at its sudden burst of energy. Carefully picking up the fairy, Krisnina admits that its bold attitude makes her a bit nervous, but she can't bring herself to leave it behind now. She hugs the little fairy tight, realizing she's actually made friends with one. She can't stop talking about how soft and fluffy it feels. Everyone goes quiet for a moment, as they process what just happened. Suddenly, while riding on Peru-chan, Krisnina snaps out of her happy days as a new thought strikes her. She turns to the fairy and asks if it already has a name, hoping for an answer. Not sure she picked the right name, Krisnina tries out a few options, telling the fairy to chirp when she gets one it likes. She settles on Isa as the fairy's name but then overthinks it, wondering whether the fairy is even a boy or girl. She suggests a different name, but the fairy pecks her hand in protest, and Krisnina quickly realizes she was off the mark. She tries to figure out the fairy's background, and asks if it's always had a spirit to look after, since it's only about a year old. She learns from the fairy that he was just flying around on his own, with no one else nearby. She finds out the fairy got caught up in a strong wind, which blew him far away, explaining how he ended up lost out here in the first place. She hears that monsters suddenly went after the fairy, forcing him to bolt, and she just shakes her head, thinking what a klutz he must be. She gently asks the little spirit if someone will eventually come to take it home, and the fairy energetically chirps back, sounding totally sure about it. She feels sad they can't always stay together, but she admits it's probably safer for him to end up with the spirit. Even now, she's already starting to treat their time as something temporary. Even though she knows this won't last, Krisnina can't help wishing they could just keep traveling together. She's dreamed of talking to a fairy, so having him as a companion, even for a little while, makes her happy. She suggests they look out for each other until the spirit comes. The fairy happily agrees, and just like that, they become a team for now. Every morning, Krisnina heads out to gather herbs, while Peru-chan grazes close by, making sure everybody gets fed and stays busy. Her nights are spent making magical papers at the table by candlelight, with the fairy always sticking nearby to keep her company. She puts some coins aside each day, staying careful with money so she doesn't run out. The frame shows Krisnina's progress as the wooden framework for the new house takes shape. Standing in her quiet workspace, Krisnina thinks about how much her days have changed lately. A cartwheel creaks as supplies get hauled over, ready for Krisnina's next building steps. She admits she's still a beginner at fixing the undercarriage and knows there's a lot more for her to learn before she's any good. Her friends say she picks things up quickly, but Krisnina says it's really the group's teamwork and advice that's gotten her this far. She breaks down the undamaged pieces to figure out how things work, then puts them back together better, and she admits it's pointless to have magic skills if you don't actually. She studies the plans with the two workers watching, trying to figure out the next step. She wants the house to be as light as possible, but one of the workers reminds her that the walls still need extra support, or they won't hold up. They talk through their options. Krismina knows magical paper can protect them, but she's not sure she can keep it working all the time, so they have to figure out how to balance strong walls with the risk of monster attacks without making everything too heavy. A teammate checks if they've got everything, and Krismina points out they're still missing some supplies for the top section of the build. One worker offers to sell them wood from his own place for cheap, and Krismina gratefully takes the deal, glad for the extra help. She notices how everybody helps in their free time, sharing things like carpentry tricks and assembly skills, so the whole group gets better together. Looking around at her crew, Krismina feels proud. She thinks the way everyone works together makes this a great place to be. Scanning the supplies, Krismina realizes that almost all the parts are ready, so they're finally close to moving forward on the build. She steps up and announces she's taking charge of the undercarriage, which immediately gets the other workers' attention. Some look surprised, but they're all watching closely now to see if she can really pull it off. She admits fixing things this way really draws her in, and asks the group to watch over her while she uses her special skill for the job. She steadies herself and quietly gets ready to use her magic before starting the tricky work. She thinks about how using her crafting skill drains her own magic. As she gets stronger, she can use it longer, but it still wears her out every time. She thinks about how much she's grown. Her training with the witch has boosted her magic, and now she can store enough power to handle real building work. She knows she has to be smart about using it in small batches, not all at once. She pours her focus into the goal ahead and tells herself she's ready for the job, building a real house, no turning back. She puts out her hand and starts using magic, locking in on the challenge in front of her, and deciding to rely on her own skills to pull this off. Her magic kicks in, and she picks exactly the right tool, knowing how much wood to trim to make the undercarriage solid. The others stare, watching her work faster and cleaner than anyone expected. Trusting her new power, Krismina works like she has an invisible assistant. Even tasks that would need two people go smoothly, so she pushes ahead solo, while the others realize just how much her skill lets her do on her own. She holds everything steady herself, using her new strength to finish steps that usually take a full team. Krismina keeps her attention locked on the build, flying through what used to be hard parts. One of the workers suddenly realizes Krismina's magic is actually the legendary house-building skill, and the whole team just stands there staring, kind of shocked at what this means. She hesitates and quietly asks if going along with the new plan would actually be okay. A couple of workers chat and agree she wrapped up the repair so fast, no one even had time to object. It's clear her work is solid. The group starts openly praising Krismina. Some admit they couldn't even keep track of her hands, while others say she handled the hardest part better than anyone else could. One worker wonders aloud if Krismina did it all herself, even tackling the wheel, while someone else says her technique might actually top what experienced carpenters can do. Everyone stands back, fully surprised. She fastened giant planks alone, easily pulling off what's supposed to be a team job with just her own carpentry magic. The crowd gets curious again and starts asking Krismina how her magic really works, wanting to know how she manages all this without running out of energy. A team lead steps in and tells the group to cut the questions for now, reminding everybody to watch Krismina's effort and learn from her instead of just probing for answers. She admits she actually enjoyed fixing things and learned a ton, while one of the older workers is just glad they had the chance to team up today. With most of the build done, Krismina figures all that's left is getting a few more materials and finishing up the top half. She's already thinking about how she can earn extra money and keep the momentum going. After wrapping up, one of the workers admits he's really hungry and invites everyone, Krismina included, to join him for a meal. Someone jumps in and offers to pay, so Krismina quickly agrees, and the whole group heads out together to eat. Walking out with everyone, Krismina starts daydreaming about what kind of food they'll get to try, feeling excited for something new after all that hard work. The guy leading the way warns Krismina most of the dishes might seem weird at first, but promises she'll like them. This makes their dinner trip feel like the start of something fun and unexpected. He adds that the place is run by a branch of the Nihon group, which is news to Krismina. That little detail makes her even more curious about what this meal and its story might be. One worker repeats, Nihon group, as he realizes who is behind the restaurant. The explanation keeps going. The Nihon group is also called the Nihon tribe, and the workers surprise Krismina hasn't heard of them. Even Krismina's bird gets noisy, like it wants in on the talk. One worker clutches his stomach, distracted by how hungry he has become. All of a sudden, someone brings up the Nihon tribe name again, clearly shocked about the people behind this restaurant they're heading to. She just freezes, totally thrown by hearing the Nihon tribe name come up again. She stands frozen, staring up as the name Nihon Tribe sinks in and leaves her rattled. A simple round title card pops up. Surviving in this world means thinking fast and using every trick you've got. For Krisnina and her friends, this wraps their first real win in the city. One worker shuffles away in silence, thinking about all the food he wants. A simple round title pops up, reminding everyone that if you want to survive in this world, you have to think on your feet and use your skills. The chapter starts quiet, leaving a long blank space before anyone shows up or anything happens. Right away, the creator steps in to welcome readers and share the excitement about Krisnina's journey, hinting that the world and its challenges took a lot of effort to bring to life. Krisnina appears with a wink and introduces herself alongside Peru-chan, her horse, making it clear she'll get by in this strange new world using her DIY skills instead of waiting for magic. A bold banner pops up to plug the next volume, reminding everyone the story isn't stopping here, more is coming soon. A magazine ad takes over part of the page, but someone quickly cuts in with a line about their skills, turning the focus back from promotion to the story's building theme. Publisher credits flash on the page, making it official that the story is out for real and now belongs to its readers. Chibi versions of Krisnina, Peru-chan, and a tough ally march across a wood background. This playful lineup introduces the main group and shows their teamwork and energy, promising both hard work and fun ahead. She gets dropped into this new world and starts working out how to handle things using her home building know-how, since she doesn't have magic. A decorated border pops up around the series logo, putting the spotlight on the story's survival with skills theme before things move forward. Credits roll as Nonoka Hinata's name appears front and center, linking the creative team directly to Krisnina's story and hinting that the real adventure is about to begin. Copyright info takes over, giving readers a quick pause before the action starts up again. The story dives in. Krisnina is stuck in another world with no magic, so she has to use her home building skills to get by. She heads out with a big smile, a bird pal on her arm, and her toolkit ready. Krisnina heads out, sunlight spilling over the door as her day properly begins. A small bird floats above an empty signboard, tucked in among trees and flowers, setting up the first quiet moments before anything starts. Krisnina tilts her head up, sunlight bouncing off her straw hat as she heads outside. She winks and lifts her empty glass to the sky, grinning as a bluebird perches on her shoulder, standing tall in a field of wildflowers. She flashes back to her old world, remembering how she was near the train tracks, when a strange invisible line seemed to pass right through her. That one event flipped her whole life around and set her on the path she's on now. She wonders if anyone near that spot got hit too. Maybe some of them ended up in this world after dying, just like she did. The thought makes her nervous, since she's not sure who she can trust. A woman peeks nervously from a doorway, startled by something she's just noticed. At first, when the newcomers arrived, everyone loved the fresh ideas and different routines they brought to the group. But after a few people took things too far, the local folks started getting suspicious of anyone from the new group. Krisnina realizes she can never share her reincarnation story. She has to keep quiet or risk being seen as too weird. One of the guys at her table leans over and tells Krisnina to try the dish, suddenly making her the center of attention as everyone waits for her first bite. The table fills up with food, stir-fried veggies, katsudon, nikujaga. Seeing so many dishes at once stuns Krisnina, since this is way more than she's ever had before. Her face goes red and she freezes up, caught off guard by the teasing. A guy explains that thanks to the Nihon group bringing rice, dishes like these are now common everywhere. Krisnina listens, still a little overwhelmed to be part of all this. She quietly points out she remembers places so remote you couldn't even buy rice. That memory stings, showing just how much things have changed for her. She flashes back to when she had to live off dried plants and scraps, mixed with water and baked, since real food was rare and wheat was impossible to get. That feeling of hunger is still close to her heart. The guy leans in, King Krisnina, for her reaction. She finally tries the katsudon, and for a split second, a hopeful smile flickers across her face. The taste is too much. Krisnina bursts into tears, amazed that food could be this good again after so long without it. The kitchen crew and her friends swap glances, surprised at how hard the food hits her. She chokes up, as she explains she hasn't had a meal this rich since coming here, and her friend begins to truly see how deep this moment runs for her. Crying over how good the meal is, Krisnina gets comforted by someone offering her a special treat to cheer her up. She's caught off guard when they serve more dishes she didn't order, but the cook lets her know it's a gift for how grateful she is. The cook, remembering his old boss's advice about grateful customers, offers Krisnina a special thank you for getting so emotional over his food. She melts with happiness over her dessert, which cracks up the guy watching her. Through tears, Krisnina thanks the host for the food and kindness, Even though her cheeks are wet, she manages a big, honest smile. This small moment means more to her than anyone realizes. Her friend teases Krisnina for digging in without sharing, reminding her she promised a treat, so now she has to explain herself to the group. The cook tells her to come back soon and promises to make her something extra next time, clearly glad that his food made such an impact. Krisnina wipes her tears and says she's fine, but her friend offers to walk her back to the inn, just to make sure she's okay. She laughs as Isa, her bird, pokes around her plate, and teases that Isa will try to eat anything, which helps break the tension at the table. He falls quiet for a second, thinking about what Krisnina just told him, as the energy fades. As they head outside, he mentions that members of the Nihon group will arrive soon. One of the guys admits he brought Krisnina along because most people are nervous around the Nihon group, hoping she'll get used to them with a little help. She brings up rumors she's heard that the Nihon group barges into whatever problem they feel like. Her companion shrugs, saying those stories aren't completely off. He explains, folks from that group have skills no one expects, using them in ways that surprise everyone. Most of the talk against them, he says, is probably just jealousy. He tries to set the record straight, saying most of those folks actually do good work, and gives the latest meal as proof. She freezes for a second, still taking in what he said about those rumors. He playfully points out she cried over the food, and Krisnina gets embarrassed, but can't deny it really hit her. She wishes he'd just let it go. The cook and her helper stand outside the door, quietly impressed after seeing how much Krisnina appreciated. She steps in and gets a warm welcome from the cook and her helper, making it clear. Her friend asks the shopkeeper to look out for Krisnina for a bit, and the shopkeeper agrees, showing Krisnina as getting more support here. The young guy sends Krisnina off with a reminder to get some rest, looking out for her before he leaves on his own. Someone nearby jokes that the guy is a good person but probably too old for Krisnina, mixing humor with a bit of gentle teasing. The cook laughs off the idea of any romance, pointing out how weird it'd be for a grown man to go after someone Krisnina's age. And everyone keeps things friendly. She quietly feels some relief that Eve never said anything bad about the Nihon tribe, giving her a bit more peace as she tries to fit in. She wonders if Ife just never really thought much about the tribe, and decides maybe she shouldn't worry so much about his silence. She steps outside, glancing up at the sign as she leaves the workshop behind. She realizes Eve isn't around today and figures he must have grabbed work somewhere else, so she'll have to handle things by herself. She checks the job board but is surprised to see there aren't any herb gathering requests left, which throws off her plans for the day. Another worker comes in with a stack of job papers, announcing he's already taken all the herb gathering tasks, cutting Krisnina off from her usual work. She gets interrupted mid-thought, glancing up flatly and just going, "What?" at whoever's calling her. She looks confused as one of the workers comments that she's been scooping up all the jobs. He blocks Krisnina from taking any work, saying he's not about to let someone his own bronze rank beat him out and rank up first. He doubles down, hinting Krisnina's only gotten this far because a powerful Kijin swordmaster has her back, not through her own skill. Ignoring her, he walks off and leaves Krisnina standing there with nothing left to do. She tries to shrug it off, saying jobs are always first come first served, but the way they treated her still stings. Just then, Anna calls out to Krisnina, asking if she's got a minute, and stepping over as the tension finally eases. Anna sees Krisnina searching for work and quickly waves her over, offering a new job she hopes Krisnina will take. She looks down at her new work assignment and realizes they want her to polish the inside of a giant agate tortoiseshell, which catches her totally off guard. Anna explains that the job actually requires both a delicate hand and some real strength. She remembers Krisnina said she could handle tough work, making this task a good fit. She jumps at the chance, thinking that helping out this shop might lead to a discount on some of the materials she needs for her house carriage. She heads into the back room with Anna and a worker, ready to start. One of the shop guys looks super relieved and thanks Krisnina, saying he really needs the help right now. He explains they just got hit with a massive rush order out of nowhere, and now they're scrambling to finish everything within 7 days, which has everyone stressed. The workers all look pretty deflated now, realizing just how far behind they've fallen on the shell. She offers to strip the shells before everyone polishes, but a worker warns her it usually takes serious strength. Everyone else is already running out of steam. Skeptical, a worker asks if she can break stone or hard wood as a test, just to prove she has the strength for this kind of job. She picks up one shell and accidentally snaps it in half on her first try. Everyone in the room just stops and stares in disbelief, shocked by how strong Krisnina is. Krisnina lines up the shell on her workbench, getting ready to strip the next one. She quietly works away, staying focused as she chips at the shell with a chisel. She swings her chisel down and cracks the shell open with a loud pop, surprising everyone nearby. One of the workers watches Krisnina and admits out loud that she's both quicker and more accurate. She keeps tapping away at the shell while two workers quietly watch her work. As soon as Krisnina finishes up, all the workers crowd her, trying to convince the boss to pay her more and begging her to come back tomorrow, and even asking if she wants to say yes right away, but hesitates, remembering she needs to go to the lumber mill this afternoon. The workers all offer to tell the lumber mill for her, fill out a new guild request, and even buy her lunch if she'll take on more shifts. The boss makes it official. Krisnina gets the shell stripping job, while the rest of the team focuses on polishing the insides. Two of the workers quietly get back to scraping shells, each still thinking about how fast Krisnina stays locked in, carefully tapping at the shell with her chisel. She finally lets herself relax, wiping sweat off her brow as the workshop pressure fades. Once all the shells are stripped, everyone in the workshop breathes easier, glad the hardest part is finally done. But relief doesn't last long. Most of the crew is so tired and sore they can barely move, let alone celebrate finishing. She sees how beat up everyone looks and suddenly remembers she knows a trick that could help the whole team recover. She suggests making cold compresses, saying she learned how from a witch. The workers are surprised, but she promises she knows the recipe and can put it together for them. One of the workers asks if only healers can make remedies like this, but Krisnina jumps in, wanting to show everyone how easy it actually is. Shrugs off the concern, figuring if it's just the easy remedy, pretty much anyone could pull. She starts showing everyone the steps. She takes a bunch of mint and soaks it in cold well water to start off the compresses. She explains that after soaking the mint, you use the cool water to help mix horse fat, making the spread nice and smooth for applying. Krisnina sets out a clean cloth and demonstrates how to apply the mint mixture, finishing up the simple cold compress in front of everyone. She warns the crew that this only works for tired muscles and won't fix everything, but people are surprised that making it is actually this simple. The workers try out Krisnina's mint mixture and are all smiles, saying it feels good and smells nice. She thinks back to all the effort it took. 3 full days of stripping shells just to finish the big order and reach this break. Later, at the after-work party, Krisnina asks if anyone has damaged rainbow hopper wings, catching people off guard because that's not a normal request. She lets them know she's looking for rainbow hopper wings from the labyrinth monster, saying the perfect ones are too expensive and she just needs damaged pieces. A worker perks up, realizing they could have helped sooner, and quickly heads off to find something Krisnina can use. He comes back with a whole box of damaged wings and pushes them toward Krisnina, but she hesitates about accepting, not wanting to take someone else's treasure. The group tells her not to worry. These broken wings would have just been trashed, so she's really doing them a favor by taking them. Knowing she can have the wings, Krisnina lights up and starts tossing around ideas for everything she wants to try making. The others are honestly happy to help and thank Krisnina for pitching in on their toughest jobs, and everyone's spirits lift as they celebrate the win together. The city feels tense and empty as the clouds gather over dark rooftops. She makes her way home, feeling amped up by how much she managed to get. This really pays off all the hard work they just finished. Her thoughts spin with plans about how to use the broken wing shards in a stained glass style project, excited to see how it'll all come together. She freezes and looks over her shoulder, suddenly sure she just heard footsteps behind her. But then she gets a chill, noticing a shadowy figure hanging back who seems to be following her, making the evening suddenly feel less safe. She remembers how things have felt off in town lately. There was that kid who got grabbed not long ago, and now the danger feels much closer to home. Her mind races as she wonders if the person behind her could be a kidnapper too, and her nerves spike as she picks up her pace. As things go quiet and the scene fades, Krisnina is left walking alone, knowing her new start in Garel isn't as safe as she hoped. Krisnina's stuck in a tight spot. She hates wasting her valuable magic paper, but since she's being watched by someone suspicious in the alley, she decides she has to use it for protection. She activates her defense spell, using one of her magic papers just in case things get dangerous. A faint magical glow covers her, and Krisnina quietly hopes this spell is enough to keep her safe if things go wrong now. Krisnina figures out that with a special pattern from Witch-sama, her magic paper glows only for her, so nobody else notices when she uses it. While Krisnina admits these new spells really are handy, she grumbles about how much tougher it is to memorize Witch-sama's custom runes, along with the regular ones. She walks off holding her supplies, while one of the guild workers quietly watches her go. After feeling stalked for too long, Krisnina gets fed up and calls out, telling whoever's following her to hurry up and show themselves already. She senses someone suspicious nearby, and a hooded figure quietly slips out of the shadows behind her. Suddenly, someone yells Krisnina's name from behind, totally catching her off guard and snapping her out of the tense standoff. One guild boy smiles at Krisnina and tries to reassure her. She spots someone she recognizes and blurts out, "Loki-kun," before she can stop herself. The boy explains he came to find Krisnina since she was running late, and even mentions their mom started getting worried about her. She gives a little smile and thanks the guild staff for the warning, taking in she tells him she was just at an after party for a client, and he shrugs it off, making it clear there's no hard feelings as things settle back down. As things calm down, Krisnina glances around and spots that the shadowy stalker has vanished. Still confused, Krisnina wonders if that whole creepy run-in even meant anything, trying to make sense of what just happened. She reaches out as shimmering stones float in front of her, caught off guard by how pretty. Isa, the little bird, perks up too, chirping at the sparkles. Krisnina can't help laughing, since even Isa loves the shiny stuff. Remembering a promise she made, Krisnina realizes she still needs to build a home for Isa and puts it back on her to-do list. She asks Isa if it wants the sparkly stones for its new house, and Isa chirps like crazy, clearly loving the idea. She decides to sort all the shiny fragments by size and color, then stuffs them into her magic storage pouch so nothing gets misplaced. But while she's tidying up, Krisnina notices the pouch is getting full, which is a problem because there's only so much it can hold before it bursts. Isa tilts its head and chirps, sensing something odd by the glowing board nearby. Krisnina reminds Isa that the witch's magic makes it so only she can check inside the pouch. As she keeps working, Krisnina can't help comparing her pouch to If's next-level storage bag and starts feeling jealous of how much better his was. Just then, someone else jumps in, pointing out that even if If's pouch looks plain, it can store the same amount as a whole house from the central district, which really drives home how special of an item Krisnina has. She hears the pouch cost almost 10,000 gold coins, and Krisnina is blown away that something so small could be that expensive. She hears just how expensive If's storage bag was. So pricey you could buy a whole house for that, and she's kind of stunned anyone would spend that much on a pouch. She eyes her old magic pouch, realizing it's a hand-me-down from the witch. Even used, something like this would cost thousands of gold coins. And she's just now grasping how expensive magical gear really is. Krisnina thinks about how her storage pouch can pack away tons of stuff. But if she doesn't reorganize it all the time, it gets messy and fills up fast. She checks her supplies and realizes she's almost out of paper and ink, so she adds a nice fountain pen to her wish list too. She's gotten comfortable with her current pen, but now the tip's too thick for writing on the tiny sheets of magic paper she needs next. She doesn't let her supply problems stall her work. She rolls up her sleeves and decides to make a quick batch of fresh paper herself. She pauses outside the guild and plans her next move before entering. Inside, Krisnina checks the guild's request board and sees there's still a herb gathering job left for today, which might be her shot at earning some quick cash. Ice, who works at the guild, tells Krisnina maybe she shouldn't leave the city for jobs today. Krisnina is caught off guard and wonders why. She explains that If got called away to the main office for business and had to head straight into the labyrinth, so he won't be around to help out. Another guild member adds that someone came by recently looking for Krisnina and was worried when she wasn't there to be found. She figures out she wrapped up her last job early, which is why If hasn't come back. She moved faster than he expected and is pretty much on her own now. She drops her voice and shares that there have been some worrisome incidents lately. She's also been thinking about a problematic adventurer who caused trouble before. Word's gotten around that the person making trouble now is the same guy who hassled Krisnina previously. At the counter, one guy complains that a pushy adventurer grabbed up all the gathering requests ahead of everyone, leaving the rest of them stuck without work. She realizes this guy has been gaming the guild's system. After snatching the jobs, he even posted up in front of the board, acting sketchy and waiting for someone specific. She volunteers to use herself as bait, surprising the others by jumping at the chance to help catch the troublemaker. She lays out her plan. She'll go take a herb gathering request and use it to draw the guy out. A guild worker, seeing a chance, quickly asks Krisnina if she'll take on even more gathering requests to help clear their growing stack. Thanks to that one troublemaker, most of the regular adventurers are tied up. The herb jobs are piling up, so now the guild needs extra help to keep up. One of the staff tells Krisnina he's counting on her because she always gets the job done, though she's still nervous her plan might backfire. She grins and promises she'll be fine since she's got Peru-chan and Isa along, plus a backup plan if anything goes sideways. They agree, but warn Krisnina to run if it gets too dangerous. She promises to be careful, ready to tackle the job, even with the risks. The forest clears out after the fight, leaving everything quiet while Krisnina regroups. Krisnina crouches to gather herbs, while Peru-chan grazes, and the little bird keeps watch from above. She stays hidden and gets herself ready, bracing for the first sign of trouble. He suddenly stiffens, picking up something wrong nearby, and Krisnina knows they're not alone anymore. Krisnina spots someone moving through the bushes, and instantly recognizes the guy who caused problems for her before. He grits his teeth, annoyed he got found out so quickly. Right away, the troublemaker tells his group to deal with Peru-chan, since Krisnina spotted them sneaking around. His friends panic, clearly not ready for a horse that's about to fight back and cause real trouble for them. She fires right back at the ringleader, cutting off his rant and making it clear she's not just taking hits. She's ready to call him out too. The ringleader locks his eyes on Krisnina, making it obvious. He's not after the horse. He's got unfinished business with her, and he's not hiding it. Peru-chan charges ahead after the fleeing troublemakers as someone shouts for him to chase them down. He rushes the troublemakers, forcing them to freeze up as this massive horse barrels their way. All the confidence those guys had disappears in an instant. Totally panicked, both guys stumbled trying to get out of Peru-chan's path. He stomps the ground in front of them, scaring them back even farther. Just looking at Peru-chan's wild glare, everyone gets it. He's not letting anyone touch Krisnina without a fight. That kind of warning makes even these thugs hesitate. The ringleader's friend stares in shock as the guy who got hit is hunched over and groaning. The ringleader snaps, complaining that nobody warned him about facing a horse like Peru-chan, while his friend tries to act tough and insists it's nothing special. With no hope left, the two boys yell out that this fight isn't worth it, and bolt, ditching the leader to handle things alone. Ringleader grits his teeth and spits out that everyone around him is useless after Krisnina's attack. She spots the truth. They're not real adventurers at all, just wannabe thugs who picked the wrong person to mess with. The ringleader glares at Krisnina, jaw clenched. She runs through her options fast, thinking maybe a surprise attack or her magical paper could work. Out of nowhere, Krisnina's bird flutters up, making noise and warning her just in time. Her bird suddenly flaps right in the guy's face, making him yell out in surprise and giving. She sees her chance, while he's distracted by the bird. Now's the moment to move. While the ringleader shouts in confusion about the crazy bird, Krisnina doesn't wait. She charges straight at him, ready to take control of the fight. She closes the distance fast and catches him before he can even react to the bird attack. She sends the ringleader flying backward, knocking him right off his feet with that hit. She rams her head into the ringleader's stomach, catching him completely off guard and knocking all the air from his lungs. Frozen in shock, the ringleader can hardly process what just happened after taking that blow. He drops to his knees, clutching his stomach, overwhelmed by how fast Krisnina turned things against him. The ringleader, sweating and doubled over, glares up at Krisnina and spits out that what she did. Someone yells out, accusing Krisnina of being a creep after her surprise attack, turning the whole group's mood sour and mean. She snaps back, fed up and not letting anyone talk down to her now that she's handled the attack. Still gasping for air, the ringleader stays doubled over after Krisnina's hit lands hard. She calls them out for ganging up on a little girl, openly shaming the group and making sure everyone sees who's in the wrong. She lands a hard kick on the ringleader. She towers over the ringleader lying flat on the ground, knocked out from her last move. She plants her hands on her hips and lets out a breath, bracing herself before heading out. Now the ringleader is tied up on the ground, and someone points out the problem seems handled. Krisnina looks at Peru-chan, not wanting to make her horse carry the knocked-out troublemaker, but she doesn't really see another good option. She considers asking Issa for help, but quickly decides Issa was never an option anyway, so she leaves Issa out of this completely. Krisnina heads for town, leading Peru-chan with the tied-up ringleader trailing behind on the road. She and Peru-chan reach the town gate while the guards wait, watching the whole scene unfold. She bursts out, demanding to know why the guards aren't arresting the guy she just dragged in after so much effort. She gets told straight up, since the ringleader's a local and she's not a citizen here, the guards won't do anything about it. She just stands there, stunned and frustrated that after all she did, nobody's helping her out. Running out of choices, Krisnina hands the ringleader off to the Adventurers Guild, knowing it's not really what she wanted, but seeing no other way. A guild girl tells Krisnina the ringleader won't get real punishment because the crime got stopped early, which leaves Krisnina upset at how unfair it is. Even though the guild tries to make it up to her by offering compensation, Krisnina knows it's just a weak trade for demoting his rank instead of any real justice. She explains that Geis, the guy she caught, technically got punished by the guild, but honestly it means nothing to her. Krisnina finds out Geis only got 10 days of labor, and the rest of his group weren't named, so the whole thing feels pointless. She gives a tired sigh, feeling let down because none of the big problems actually got solved. She tells the guild workers she'll be fine while Geis deals with his punishment. Then she grabs her stuff to get back to her own tasks. Before heading out, she decides to stay on alert, just in case those two who escaped earlier decide to show up again. She braces herself, focusing and getting ready for anything else that might happen. Peru-chan steps close, and a little bird lands on Krisnina's shoulder, which reminds her she doesn't have to take on these problems alone. She smiles, feeling more confident because her friends are with her, and says she can move forward thanks to them. Looking up at the sky, Krisnina promises she'll count on her friends, ending her day sure that together they can face whatever comes next. Krisnina's visitor stands in the doorway, arms crossed, clearly trying to figure out what to say next. She admits she hates being secretly tailed and figured she could handle Geis on her own. She admits messing up and feels bad because her mistake let two of Geis's guys slip away. Now she's stuck dealing with the fallout. She remembers she was invited to join a team exploring the underground labyrinth, so her recent actions carry bigger consequences than just her own safety. Loki looks over with a skeptical face, sizing up Krisnina's latest round of home improvements. Krisnina hears that normally no one's allowed past a certain point yet. She catches that the boy sounds concerned for her, but he still points out he doesn't trust how this whole setup works. So she tells him she'll stick around the city for a while, figuring the escaped thugs probably won't risk doing anything in public. That helps her feel a bit safer. Even though it feels odd to say, Krisnina reminds the boy to keep his guard up too. They both know things could still go sideways for either of them. Now she's stuck wondering how she's supposed to help Peru-chan burn off energy if leaving the city isn't safe anymore. The boy got most of the house's walls put together, finally making real progress. She holds up the round stained glass window, admiring how nice it turned out. She gets asked where she thinks the new window should go, showing that the group actually cares about her input on the building. She suggests setting the window above the right wall, but quickly realizes that would block sunlight from reaching the workbench, so the plan needs to change. To fix that, Krisnina pitches the idea of adding a built-in shelf under the window. The others like it, so they move ahead with the new plan. Suddenly, Krisnina gets caught up in the idea of putting a round window right over the bed so she could see the stars from there. Her friend is not sure what to think of that, but the thought of monsters watching her through that window creeps her out, so she has second thoughts about the whole setup. That confession makes everyone nearby freeze for a second, taken off guard by what Krisnina just admitted. Suddenly, someone bursts out laughing off-panel, breaking the quiet while Krisnina works on her project. She stays uneasy about monsters outside, but a builder reassures her their horse will alert them if anything scary comes near. She checks the latest delivery and confirms they finally have all the materials. Now there's nothing left in the way of starting real construction. Everyone pumps Krisnina up as she moves to start building for real. The nerves are there, but her friend's support is enough to keep her going. She steadies herself for the big moment and throws her energy into starting her own place from scratch. She suddenly realizes she's actually building a house all by herself for the first time, and the thought hits her so hard she just blurts it out, a huge grin spreading over her face as the moment finally feels real. She picks her steps, sidewalls first, then the floorboards and the ceiling together. Each hit with the hammer turns this into something real. She moves along the floor, nailing down the boards as the new place slowly comes together. She lines up the arched frame, hammering each board and checking that it feels solid. She suddenly glances up from her work, caught off guard by something unexpected. She quietly saws another board for her project, focused on getting each piece just right. One of the workers realizes Krisnina fixed the problem with his wooden plank just by looking at it. The other jokes that he clearly needs to go back to training. She moves straight into setting up the window, showing everyone she's not slowing down and is already planning her next steps for the build. She presses the stained glass into place and steps back to see how it catches the light. She fits a built-in shelf along the wall, setting up some storage so she won't have supplies mess everywhere. She puts the doors on the shelf, double-checking that they close tight and nothing will fall out. With the handles and hinges locked in, her storage is finally ready for use. Krisnina checks over her finished storage setups, cabinet, bench. Next, she heads upstairs, ready to fix up the second floor and keep the momentum going. She points out the empty space under her bed will work as extra storage, squeezing every inch of use out of the little home. She makes sure not to put the roof window right above her bed in case she needs an escape route. Safety is always on her mind, even with the small stuff. She grabs her tools and starts mounting the magic steel container she ordered, planning to set it up under the carriage so she'll have a bath once it's all put. On the other side of the room, Krisnina marks out space for a little kitchen. She wants every part of this house to be useful. She checks her plans one last time before getting to work on the birdhouse project. Outside, people notice her small house finally looks sturdy and almost finished. She steps back to take it all in. The wheels, bench, and frame are together, and it suddenly feels like a real mobile home. She stands to the side, checking the sturdy cart frame she just finished putting together. Krisnina's finished house sits solidly on its frame now, wheels and all, ready for her next move. She freezes for a second, surprised by just how much the little bird loves its new house. A few workers call out, surprised Krisnina finished this quickly. They talk about how polished it looks, even though she did everything in half the usual time. One of the workers gives Krisnina a quick pat on the back and tells her, "Nice work." She zones out for a second, just staring blankly as the excitement settles. A woman breaks up the crowd, saying they've had enough excitement. Suddenly, things turn calm again, with everyone remembering there's still work to do. Before the group can smother her with more cheers, the landlady tells everyone to give Krisnina space so she can finally have a break. The interruption turns into a joke, and the overseer quickly rallies the workers to get back on track. So the crowd thins, and the place settles down. One of the crew jokes they should celebrate with a big meal, inviting Krisnina and the rest to hang out and enjoy the night together. She just drifts, watching a bird fly by, while she tries to let everything sink in. She pauses and glances down, her bird perched on her shoulder and watching for her reaction. She steps back and makes room for her bird to try out the new birdhouse. She glances up at her finished project and quietly wonders if what she built is really as impressive as it feels, after everything that's happened. She knows her new place might just look like a small carriage to other people, but she still feels proud, even with a hint of self-doubt. The new birdhouse sits ready and waiting, filling the little room with a quiet sense of accomplishment. It sinks in that she's actually built this house from scratch by herself, and she feels a strong mix of pride and relief at what she's managed to pull off. She lays out how her whole past life was dictated by her parents, right down to college, work, and even an engagement she never really chose herself. But as soon as her fiancé cheated on her, that plan broke apart, and nothing from that life was left for her. She runs through her memories and realizes she never really made her own choices, and now she wonders what her life was even about. At that low point, she decides she's done living by someone else's plans. Something inside her finally snaps, and she knows she needs a real change. She figures out what she really wants, a place that's hers and hers alone, not built from anyone else's dreams or permission. Just when she finally started saving up for her own apartment back home, everything changed for good, and all those careful plans disappeared in a flash. She perks up and turns toward the doorway when someone calls for her. This house carriage matters to her because it's the first thing she truly picked for herself and put the work in to earn. She didn't get handed it or follow anyone's path. Now, staying in her own creation, Krisnina feels for the first time like this is a place where she actually fits. Her new little birdhouse is set up on the window, showing off her handiwork right where everyone. She relaxes on her bed and thinks about the party from yesterday, humming as she realizes things finally feel lighter for once. But she remembers she still has debts and owes a lot to Gaoris, who's helped her out so much, so she knows she can't just let her house carriage sit around forever and needs to find a proper place for it soon. With her own house done, Krisnina turns to her bird friend and asks if it's time to start on a special place for them too. The little bird throws its wings up and chirps out loud, making sure Krisnina hears just how. She figures they should skip any metal and just use all natural stuff like vines, wood chips, straw, and cotton, and the little bird excitedly approves. She tells her friend she doesn't want to just make an ordinary birdhouse. She wants to build something special that'll give her bird a real sense of fun and comfort. She grabs her supplies and tells her bird she's ready to start building the new birdhouse. After working together, Krisnina lifts up the finished woven birdhouse and shows it off, telling her bird pal that it's ready to check out the new digs. The little bird bursts out chirping even louder, clearly thrilled with its brand new house. She explains she made the door extra wide so her bird friend can get in without bumping its wings, showing how much she cares about every detail. The little bird peeks into its new woven house, checking out the cozy nest Krisnina built inside. She points out there are different rooms on separate floors, each with plenty of space and ladders, so her friend can fly or climb around and never get bored. She explains the top floor is set up like a living room, a roomy spot for the bird to chill out and play whenever it wants. She shows off the second floor of the birdhouse, telling the bird this is meant for dining. She points out the little window with curtains, saying it's there so the bird can look out while eating, making this whole spot feel homey and special. She demonstrates how the curtains work. Tugging one string rolls them up, and pulling the other rolls them down. The bird tries them out right away, learning it can control the light and privacy in its own space. Next, Krisnina points out the entrance area on the third floor has a big exercise wheel for the bird to play with. Now the bird can keep active anytime, which seems to really catch its attention and add some fun to the tour. On the fourth floor, Krisnina tells the bird she left out straw and cotton so it can build its own bed however it likes. She encourages the bird to make this floor its own, turning the space into something personal. She explains the bird's water bowl and bathroom are tucked away down on the secret fifth floor, keeping messes out of sight and giving the bird extra privacy. She shows the hidden door at the base of the birdhouse, letting the bird know she'll use it to keep the nest clean without disturbing anything else. The bird lights up with excitement, amazed by everything included in its new home. It pauses, soaking in all the details Krisnina added just for it. She realizes the little bird is actually singing to her, and she guesses it's its way of saying thanks for the new house. The little bird flaps around excitedly on its bed, clearly getting settled into its new home. The little bird stands at its new doorway, checking out the tiny pieces Krisnina left for it. She laughs, noticing how the bird is already moving its things in and getting comfy in its own place. The bird flutters from spot to spot, making itself completely at home. He spots the stash of objects the bird has set aside and sees the new shelf starting to fill up. She points out the bird's little collection, some dried fruit, a round pebble, and an empty bug shell, their favorite finds now neatly stored inside the house. The little bird nudges its shiny pebble with its beak, checking out its new collection spot. She offers to help carry in the bird's collection, but the bird reacts with shock, clearly not ready to hand over its treasures just yet. Before she can push the issue, someone calls out to Krisnina from the door and asks if she's got a second. She heads over and opens the door, curious about what this visitor wants. Recognizing the visitor as Loki, Krisnina asks what brought him here. Loki explains he was sent by someone from the Adventurers Guild to give Krisnina a message. He tells her the guild wants to talk and asks Krisnina to come down to headquarters. The sudden request catches her off guard. The chapter wraps up with a chapter marker flashing on screen as Krisnina gets a new summons, right when she was finally starting to settle down. Right away, the boy admits they've hit a snag. They need way more magical paper than usual, plus some rare types they can't get anywhere else. He says sorry for snapping earlier, but he's clearly stressed and desperate to find a fix before things spiral. Chris suggests just going through the magic guild, but the boy waves that off since their main magic expert already quit and left them stuck. They point out another headache. Even when they asked before, the guild wouldn't rush anything or help, so that's pretty much a dead end. She explains that just having someone who can do basic drafting isn't enough. These patterns need real skill, or they'll mess it up. When Chris checks about other problems, the boy says the trouble is a lack of both official permission and someone special enough to handle the trickier jobs. He says the guild wants a huge fee for any rush orders. Since they haven't bought from the guild in ages, they either seem suspicious or just want to charge extra. The group's stuck, feeling squeezed from every angle and unable to guess what the guild's real game is. That's when the boy lights up and says this mess is exactly why he's turned to her. He's putting all his hopes on her stepping up, and he's pretty intense about it. He spells it out. This is urgent, and she's literally the only person he trusts to handle it. She's stunned to realize the whole plan now rests on her. She perks up and says she's game for the job depending on which patterns they need. Krisnina is up for the challenge, but it's clear she wants to hear more details before giving a full yes. The boy doesn't hesitate and throws in a big offer. 8 gold coins per special sheet, plus all extra costs handled. That closes the deal, and Krisnina agrees with an excited grin. Deal done. They seal it with a firm handshake right at the table. The boy can't hide his relief. He looks downright pleased after getting the supplies locked in. He beams back, clearly happy with the trade and her clever negotiating. She watches, totally weirded out. Chris holds out a folder, saying all the magic patterns and why they need them are explained inside. Anna steps in and says she'll log it as an official request, so they just need to wait while it's processed. Anna casually lets slip that the real client is the Nihon tribe, which catches Krisnina totally off guard and makes her freeze a second. She nods, now looking a bit nervous, since the job just got a lot more serious. Chris starts explaining that some of the guild's top people got recruited by the Nihon tribe and are now headed down into the labyrinth below. Krisnina asks if Aif is one of them, clearly worried about a missing friend. They tells her Aif is with the group, then is surprised to catch on that Krisnina actually knows Aif. That connection wasn't obvious before. Both sit quietly for a moment, taking in how all these new twists connect back to them. Chris connects the dots, that the spate of kidnappings mostly happened in the Western District, and realizes she forgot Krisnina is still just a kid, which makes her grateful someone's been watching out for her. Krisnina admits she's just 13, but people keep thinking she's older. She blurts out that mistake almost got her attacked in the forest, which still shakes her up. She explains the attacker came from Geralt, and because she's not a local, security never took her case seriously, so she's had to fend for herself until now. They are caught off guard, honestly surprised to hear how much Krisnina has already been through. They sees this as serious and promises Krisnina the guild won't ignore what happened. They'll take the case on directly. Krisnina looks shocked, finally getting the support she was missing. Chris steps in with a plan. They'll add special terms to the supply contract, treating Krisnina as a temporary citizen until it expires. This lets the guild hand her case straight to security. It's a smart way to keep her under their protection for now. She finally lets out a breath and thanks Chris, feeling real relief, knowing she might actually be safe again. Chris adds one last rule. They'll end the contract if the Magic Guild starts offering fair prices. But until then, he wants to close every loophole so Krisnina can stay protected. Krisnina admits she doesn't even know how long she'll be in Garel, so she asks Chris if her contract can have an easy way out, Chris is open to it, making sure Krisnina won't be stuck if things go bad. They admit it's totally understandable that someone wouldn't want to stick around in Garel after everything Krisnina's been put through, so there's no pressure to stay. It lays it out. The divide between local citizens and outsiders is just getting sharper. It's not about one tough day. The whole city's attitude toward people from somewhere else is a real problem now. Even longtime residents aren't truly accepted. Chris explains you have to be third generation born to be official here. Everybody else, no matter how long they've lived in Garel, still gets treated like an outsider. Chris highlights how the labyrinth brings in so much money that the city isn't really motivated to welcome new people or make it easier for outsiders to fit in. Krisnina and Chris vent about how unfair it is that outsiders get treated poorly, even though adventurers like them are the ones risking their necks and keeping the city running. Mention the city had a tough time with immigration before. Now there's so much stress, people are even whispering about splitting away from the country, making the lines between us and them even sharper. Krisnina brings over food, while Chris points out that basically only outsiders, even the top-ranked ones, take on the really tough labyrinth floors. With things so tense, Krisnina figures she has to lay low in her room and keep working on magical paper for now, even though she'd rather be out and about. Krisnina admits she's worried about finding a place to keep the carriage, but Chris immediately reassures her they'll handle it, taking the problem off her hands. She adds that Peru-chan is restless staying inside all day. Chris suggests the inn the guild uses in the central district, so Peru-chan can get some space. Chris assures her that the guild will cover her room costs, which takes a load off Krisnina's mind and makes her situation feel a little less overwhelming. She turns down the fancy inn, joking that she might get too attached to the comfort, and says she'd honestly rather stick to her usual spot. The man proposes a deal. Since Peru-chan is such a solid horse, maybe he could help train new riders. In return, the guild would happily look after him and let Krisnina focus on her own work. She hears that the mayor actually has dragon horses, which catches her totally off guard. A dignified band tells the story. Years ago, the mayor brought home a male dragon horse from abroad, and the guild somehow got their hands on a wild female. Their luck set the guild up for life. Turns out, even the third generation of their offspring are still dragon horses, which keeps surprising everyone and gives the guild a steady supply of valuable animals. Dragon horses started as regular horses that got a dragon's blessing. Peru-chan has some dragon horse traits, though not the horns or scales, but he's got a knack for tracking that makes him special. She points out that riding lessons are key, and she learns the mayor gives dragon horses to nobles, while adventurers can now earn their own through quests. She lists off why these creatures are so great for adventurers. They're sturdy, can handle tough loads or harsh terrain, and they stick by their rider no matter what. After hearing the trainers will be careful and Peru-chan will be supervised, Krisnina agrees to let him help with training, finally feeling good about the arrangement. She takes Peru-chan's lead and starts guiding him over to the trainers herself. She explains her reasoning and gently asks the little bird to stay put for a bit, wanting to keep things safe while she sorts everything out. He looks at her with a mix of resignation and patience. It's pretty clear he's going along with it, even if he'd rather be with Krisnina. A kid tries to step in and help with Peru-chan, but Krisnina quickly tells them not to worry. She can handle this on her own. Krisnina calls Isa out before she can say anything embarrassing, and Peru-chan jumps in with an over-the-top display, showing just how strongly he feels about her leaving. Two people pass by a stone building with a hanging sign, both looking busy and not paying attention to anything unusual. She takes a seat at her desk and explains that a bunch of illusion lizards are causing new problems at the lowest levels of the labyrinth. The problem is, these illusion lizards fight with mind tricks, but nobody in the group actually has the right skills to dodge those attacks safely. While sword masters have to handle physical attacks head-on, mages can bounce back those mental attacks with mirrors. As long as you're ready, you can wear these lizards down. The adventurers are having a rough time with the swarm of illusion lizards. Krisnina and an armored ally quickly piece together the real plan, use a top-level barrier, and trick everyone with imitation magic, then erase the enemies all at once with magical paper. As Krisnina checks her book, they figure out that just sucking the air away won't take down these lizards, so that plan's out. They both agree that using magic to shut down the lizard's power will work better than anything fancy, so they lock in that plan. She makes it clear to everyone she doesn't want to get dragged into extra arguments or rerun their whole setup. She just wants to handle the lizard mess without any more drama or delay. On the bright side, she's already thinking about the reward from this job, since that money means she can finally pay off her house carriage and maybe leave Geralt for the next adventure. She doodles at her desk, daydreaming about traveling freely in her own house carriage once all these problems are behind her. The little bird grips the pen and starts scribbling something onto the magical paper. She pauses with her pen, thinking over what steps to take next. She calls over to Isa, asking if they have a second, since she wants another opinion before she finalizes her idea. Someone in the group mentions the senior fairies might be able to help, because they're skilled at fine details, which could really help out right now. She grumbles about the fountain pens, wishing the nibs were thinner, so she could draw more precise magic circles, instead of always fighting with thick lines. All of a sudden, a small bird starts chirping loudly and interrupts the group's planning. The bird hops over the messy paper, trying to get Krisnina to notice something important. She picks up the paper the bird brought, and spots a list of characters, pausing to figure out what the bird's trying to show her. She lights up and repeats back that she can really ask the senior fairies for help. The little bird fluffs itself up, clearly looking proud and eager to pitch in right away. She watches as something starts happening near a woven house, not quite sure what to expect. She calls after the bird in surprise as it suddenly takes off and flies straight out the window. The bird lands near Krisnina's earlier batch of magical paper, fussing around as if it's ready to show what it can do with those supplies now. The bird grabs the pen in its beak and starts waving it around like it's showing off how ready it is to help. She checks to make sure the little bird really feels safe with its new supplies, and the bird chirps back confidently. Like that settles it. Looking closer, Krisnina realizes Isa's magical paper is actually made from a special cloth and paper mix, making it work even when rolled up. That could solve a ton of her issues with carrying it around. Before the bird leaves, Krisnina reminds it not to push itself too much, and asks it to come back safe, making sure she's heard. The little bird launches off, flying over the city rooftops, and heading out on its own errand. She leans out the window, keeping a close eye as the little bird vanishes into the distance. She thinks about how Peruchan is still away at the guild and wishes she knew when he'd be back, missing having her friend around. Wanting to see everyone sooner, Krisnina focuses on her drawings, telling herself if she finishes this work, she'll get to reunite with them faster. Just as Krisnina settles in, someone interrupts to tell her she's got a visitor at the door, catching her by surprise. She finds out Watts is waiting to see her, and his unannounced visit leaves her curious and a little nervous. When Watts steps in, he says he came to pick up the finished magic sheets, making it clear what he's here for. Watts lets Krisnina know Anna couldn't make the trip, since carrying magical paper alone would be too dangerous for her, so Watts came instead. Krisnina hesitates before handing over the papers, realizing there's something she needs to check first. She blurts out that she's always handled these deliveries alone, and Watts admits he only just realized that's how risky it's been. She says she should have been more cautious, since the guild could be keeping watch. She jokes that nobody expects her to transport valuables, but admits it still isn't exactly safe. Watts now sees her point. If someone from the guild saw an adventurer like him carrying these papers, it would only draw more attention and suspicion their way. He quietly asks if Krisnina still wants him to take the delivery, thinking it might be safer if he does it instead. Krisnina agrees, so Watts decides he'll trail behind her and act as backup, taking the security risk more seriously now. She explains she can check for trouble using a basic investigation skill, sort of like a weaker version of appraising, which helps her handle magical objects safely. She tells Watts she can even check people for threats or bad intentions, which surprises him and shows how useful her ability really is. Krisnina calms Watts down, saying she'll warn him if anything looks sketchy, and riding in a carriage should keep things mostly safe for now. Watts climbs out of the carriage, while Krisnina stands near the entrance, and the cloaked attacker faces them from the doorway. The cloaked attacker slowly pushes themselves up, still reeling from that surprise takedown. Suddenly, Watts sees trouble and yells for Krisnina to look out, realizing something bad is about to happen. She peeks out nervously from behind the new defender, still trying to process what just happened. The stranger lunges at Krisnina, reaching for her and turning the scene instantly dangerous as she backs away. He hits the ground head first and yells for Krisnina to run while he scrambles to get up. The cloaked attacker suddenly lunges forward, grabbing Krisnina and yanking her off balance. She quickly realizes her attacker is using wind magic and magical paper, and she tries to process the danger even though she's caught off guard. Nearby, someone gets ready to counterattack, slipping a hand down to the ground and pulling out a tool, showing the fight isn't over yet. The cloaked attacker gets yanked midair, their heads snapping forward as they're flung aside. The new defender just flicks their hand and sends the cloaked attacker flying off like it's nothing. The cloaked attacker hits the ground hard and groans, clearly not expecting to get thrown aside like that. The mysterious defender calls out the attacker for targeting Krisnina in the open, making it clear they're not letting this go, as Krisnina sits up, still rattled from the attack. The new defender steps in, giving Krisnina a quick look, and basically checking if she's alright. Krisnina is still catching up as the rush of the fight fades, realizing someone she barely knows just pulled her out of real trouble. Krisnina and the others surround a guy on the ground. One armored member checks if the person on the ground is okay after all the chaos. She still shaken, manages a quick thanks for the help. Nervous boy rushes up and tries to check if Krisnina is really alright after everything that just happened. Watts tries to explain there's a reason behind the mess, but the armored guy jokes he needs to keep an eye on Krisnina. Even so, he admits Watts and Krisnina saved everyone from bigger trouble. The armored defender vents about how messed up it is that people can get attacked in broad daylight here, and he clearly doesn't like it. Watts apologizes right to Krisnina, but she tries to act like it's not a big deal so he doesn't feel worse. Focus shifts to the attacker, as the armored guy says they're from the Nihon tribe, confirming what everyone was wondering, and making things even trickier. He brings up the magical paper but asks if they can talk inside instead, so everyone starts to get ready to go in. The armored defender checks Krisnina's name to be sure and kind of awkwardly offers to walk her home later, trying a little too hard to look out for her. He quickly insists he's not a creep, and loudly promises he won't do anything weird, clearly worried about how he's coming across after that offer. Trying to explain, the defender says people from the Nihon tribe talk in a confusing way, but this just leaves Krisnina even more lost. She blinks as the armored guy keeps staring, and the conversation stalls in the awkward silence. Clutching her bag, Krisnina looks around, not sure what to make of everyone's weird energy, as she tries to figure out the situation. Krisnina just laughs off their concerns, and flashes a big, easygoing smile at the group. While the armored guy fumbles through his explanation, Krisnina suddenly worries things might be way worse than she thought, which just makes the tension grow. The story cuts to the outside of a building, letting the conversation pause for a moment as things settle down. The group heads inside together, falling into a loose line at the counter, while Krisnina hangs back and watches the others check in. Krisnina quietly hopes she can just drop off the magical paper with Anna and avoid getting mixed up with the Nihon tribe stuff. But the armored guy calls out and insists Krisnina come to the meeting too, so she doesn't get to sneak away just yet. She just freezes and stares, totally caught off guard as someone throws out a new idea. One of the guys looks over at Krisnina and asks if she's the one who accepted their urgent job request. The armored guy tries to reassure everyone it's clear Krisnina didn't cause the trouble, since Watts was the one attacked, and just ended up with her. She fumbles for words, and stands there as everyone keeps waiting for her answer. One of the guys just shrugs off the whole secrecy thing, saying it's easy for them to piece together what's really going on with the Magic Guild, even if Krisnina can't say it herself. He stops to introduce himself as Ruka, flashing a peace sign like he's trying to ease the tension. Krisnina quietly introduces herself back, saying it's nice to meet him, even though she's still shy. They all settle onto couches in a quiet room while someone looks through the stack of papers. Ruka glances down at the paper in his hands, suddenly distracted by whatever he's noticing there. He finally admits the magical paper Krisnina brought is actually really good, so right away, everyone sees he's not out to attack her side of the story anymore. Another guy says he's not worried, since Watts already vouched for the item, so the whole group eases up about whether the paper is legit. One of the guys tries to downplay his role, saying he just runs errands and only has basic skills. Suddenly, the armored guy turns to Krisnina and asks if she has the rare inscriber skill, putting her on the spot in front of everyone. Krisnina looks uncomfortable as the guy next to her awkwardly tries to react. Ruka admits he forgot people here don't like revealing their magic skills, since he's used to being open. This lets Krisnina off the hook so she doesn't have to share private info. She tells the group she doesn't have any high-level skills anyway. If she did, someone would have hired her for the guild already. Her companion laughs and agrees, and suddenly nobody cares about checking her skills anymore. Ruka casually rattles off the skills he's got, nothing flashy, just things like storage and extra strength. Once Krisnina hears that, she remembers how easily Ruka handled people during their earlier clash, and now it finally makes sense why he was so strong. Ruka shrugs and says he's nothing next to folks with top-tier magic, but Krisnina tells him he's actually impressive, even if he tries to act ordinary. For a second, Ruka just stops and looks surprised after Krisnina says she thinks he's special. Krisnina sits there kind of awkward, while Ruka grins and laughs, waiting for her answer. She says she's already done her part and just wants to get back to the inn. The others realize she's not local and start asking about her situation. Ruka perks up when he learns Krisnina's doing all this alone, impressed that she manages on her own without a team. He suddenly blurts out that Krisnina should join their party, catching her completely by surprise because she didn't expect an invite. Though Ruka admits the other members may not love the idea, he says they can't just leave a kid stranded, especially if things get tough. A younger guy nearby protests, saying dragging a kid into danger isn't right, but Ruka insists Krisnina could help with magic paper in the labyrinth instead of fighting. Maybe having her tag along would help everyone. The boy argues back that it's wrong to risk a minor's life, but Ruka still shrugs and stands by his plan, so nobody can agree what's actually safe for Krisnina. Ruka spells out his worry that it's unsafe for Krisnina to travel alone, pushing that sticking with them is better, but Krisnina is clearly annoyed at being treated like a helpless kid. Krisnina fires back that she has traveling partners and even built her own house carriage, so she's fine and doesn't need rescue. Ruka is honestly shocked by all the stuff she's pulled off solo. She freezes, surprised that the spirit knows about her house carriage, and blurting it out in confusion. She explains, a little shy, that her carriage is made to live in full time, so her real skills are way more useful than they sound. The younger guy lights up, honestly impressed she built something like that, and he starts asking what skill made it possible, before stopping himself and apologizing for being nosy. She makes it clear that she plans to head out soon with her house carriage, and doesn't need anyone else looking out for her. The boy, missing the point, just praises Krisnina for surviving solo, but totally ignores that she's not asking for comfort or help. Suddenly, someone else opens the door and apologizes for interrupting, putting an end to the back and forth. The security squad leader shows up in person and asks for Watts, cutting through the chatter and making everyone tense up as the meeting goes official. He introduces the mustached man as the Western District squad leader, and now the city's own top cop is running the show, ready to get answers. Krisnina tells the squad leader she's already talked to Watts about Geis, then quickly apologizes because she still feels a little awkward in front of so many city officials. The squad leader says the city shouldn't just look away when adventurers like Krisnina get hurt. So he makes it clear her case is finally getting some real attention. He explains that giving Krisnina semi-citizen status was someone else's idea, hinting that if she keeps living honestly here, the city can offer real support and protection for her now. The leader turns to Krisnina directly and asks her for the full story on what happened with Geis, making it clear she's now the main witness, and her facts matter most. She sits in silence, everyone waiting for her to start explaining what went down. The squad leader looks serious and tells Krisnina he knows she's been through something awful. One of the guys jumps up, ready to go after whoever hurt Krisnina, loudly ranting that the world's way too harsh on someone as small as her. He promises the city will chase down everyone tied to Geis and the attack, and Krisnina quickly thanks him, glad someone's finally got her back. The official asks if Krisnina will stay at a special inn for safety, but she gets stuck worrying about her pet bird, wondering if Isa will know where to find her if she moves. Watts, always the helper, pops in to say he's staying at that same inn and can help Krisnina move. Plus, the innkeeper is happy to watch for her bird, making the offer pretty tempting. She hears she's getting a fancy inn room, but immediately realizes the guild only pays for lodging, so any food comes straight out of her own pocket. She spots a sign hanging outside a stone building, realizing she's reached the place Isa mentioned. The innkeeper hears about the attack and just shrugs, saying she can't do much. She does apologize for not noticing Krisnina's trouble sooner. The innkeeper says Krisnina can come back once things settle, but Krisnina gets defensive and insists she didn't do anything wrong. They point out the inn is just a short walk from the guild, so Krisnina can check up on Peru-chan whenever she wants. She stares up at the massive building, letting out a nervous ooh-ah as she takes in how huge and fancy it looks. She gets started settling into her new room at the inn. One upside of moving. Now Krisnina sees Peru-chan every morning and night, and that's honestly the best part of her day now. Being so close to everything, Krisnina figures she can finally focus more on her work, making her realize this might not be so bad after all. She sits at her desk, pausing mid-writing, as she listens and tries to process what just happened. She stands there kind of stunned while the guy apologizes and promises he'll be right back. Right as Krisnina tries to make sense of the spirit's face. She turns her head, startled by something off-panel, as she tries to figure out what just happened. She spots Isa and runs over to hug her bird tight, clearly relieved and way happier now that they're back together. Once Isa's safe in her arms, Krisnina checks her over, while Isa jumps straight to asking if the guild is going to accept their request. She lands by the scattered papers on Krisnina's desk, looking around in confusion after barging in. She finally gets what Isa meant. There isn't a senior fairy coming to help her after all, just some kind of spirit, which totally throws her off. She's caught off guard when Isa says the spirit is here already, and Krisnina starts scanning the room to spot this so-called spirit. Right then, a spirit appears out of nowhere in front of Krisnina, surprising her while Isa is still in her arms. The spirit suddenly leans in close, making strange noises as it stares right at Krisnina. The spirit sticks out its hand and bluntly asks if she's the house builder, and Krisnina blurts out yes, still sounding surprised that it's talking to her. A wave of recognition hits Krisnina. This spirit looks oddly familiar, but she can't quite remember from where. Krisnina's mind jumps to imagining some weird alien, but Isa flaps around, getting worked up and bringing her back to the moment. The spirit notices Isa's panic and tries to calm her, and Krisnina can tell the spirit isn't bothered by all the fuss in the room. The spirit tells Krisnina it can grant her wish, but there's a catch. She didn't see that coming, and now she wants to know more. If Krisnina wants help, she'll need to build a house for the spirit. She double-checks if that's really the only thing she has to do. The spirit admits it only got this idea because Issa bragged about the house Krisnina made. Now it wants a place of its own. She agrees to build the house, but asks if the spirit can wait until she's done with her current project. The spirit's okay waiting, so they come to an agreement for the trade. She is on the hook, so she asks what kind of house the spirit actually wants. Issa leans in, curious too. The spirit says it wants a house with 4 corners and straight lines, like something a human would choose. That answer surprises Krisnina for a second. But for the main twist, the spirit wants its house to be able to move, since staying in one place bores it. The little spirit holds up its hands, pausing like it's waiting for Krisnina to answer or react. She asks if the spirit wants furniture in its moving house, but the spirit says it doesn't need any at all. She quickly tries showing off a different house design, hoping it'll fit, but the spirit doesn't seem impressed, leaving her stumped for a second. Someone nearby guesses that the spirit might just be a tiny dwarf, and the spirit confirms that's exactly right. Now everyone finally knows who they're actually dealing with, even though things still feel out of the ordinary. Watts pipes up and says the spirit looked like an alien earlier, which gets a few looks, but lightens the mood a bit. Then the spirit finally introduces itself as Parupi, and tells Krisnina to just call it that from now on. The talk turns a bit more friendly. Parupi says he'll go explore the city while waiting for his house, since it's been ages since his last visit. Krisnina realizes there's no quick fix. She'll have to work around Parupi's sightseeing plans. She pauses, taking in how Parupi is just going to wander around until the house is ready. As Parupi heads out, Krisnina calls after him, reminding him not to skip out on their deal for the fountain pen nib. One guy tries to deny forgetting something. Parupi says he wants to see how Krisnina actually uses the pen nib before finishing their trade. Now, the next step is on her. She sits at the table drawing careful lines while Paru-chan and a bird quietly watch her work. Parupi promises to help using all his skills, so Krisnina finally feels like she's got real backup just when she needs it. Paru-chan throws his arms around Parupi and hugs him, while the little bird flaps nearby, and everyone laughs at how caught up he gets. He just stares in total silence, looking a bit thrown off by what just happened. She catches herself and asks if Parupi didn't like getting grabbed, worried for a second she messed up. But Paru-chan just looks up happy and actually wants more hugs, so all her worry is pretty much for nothing. That throws Krisnina off. She starts to wonder if Parupi likes all this attention, and her mind jumps ahead to how out of control this could get. While one person checks something on a scroll, the others wait in the cave and watch, not sure what comes next. One guy tries the magical paper for himself, loves how well it works, and immediately says he wants a ton more. All excited now, Paru-chan jumps in, bragging that Krisnina, a super cute girl, made the pen and calls her waifu level, which just makes her even more embarrassed. Someone gets irritated and tells the others to knock it off, but no one pays much attention since these little outbursts happen all the time. Another person steps up and tells both sides to calm down, which actually makes the horned guy stop and look around, confused by all the chaos. A note pops up reminding everyone that to make it in this world, they need to build things and make stuff work, instead of just relying on magic. She sneezes out of nowhere, startling everyone and making them stop for a second. The chapter wraps up with a splash page warning that survival here comes down to DIY skills, not magic, and even throws in a tiny animal silhouette to lighten the mood. The story jumps in with the setup. Krisnina's about to start her day at the witch's place, way out in a forest, where hardly anyone else would wander by. The day gets rolling when Krisnina hears a delivery being called out, letting her know something big has just been dropped off right at the house. Krisnina leans over the crate, peering inside with her curiosity growing after freezing in surprise. Since these deliveries always come in giant crates, Krisnina usually opens them outside and lugs everything in by hand, making it her usual routine. She cracks open the crate and pauses, spotting something inside she didn't expect. Her eyes go wide as she spots the beautifully decorated box sitting right on top. She picks up the box and can't help admiring how much it looks like a jewelry case, way too pretty for regular supplies. Holding it tight, Krisnina lights up, thinking she just stumbled onto something special and rare. She steps inside with the cookie box, still looking a little stunned that anyone would give her a treat. She shows off the box to the witch, but the witch treats it like any old delivery, leading Krisnina's excitement to crash against total indifference. She carries the decorated box inside, not sure what to do with it yet. Krisnina squints down at the box, puzzled by something she just noticed on the lid. The witch just shrugs and makes it clear she doesn't care for sweets, totally ignoring what got Krisnina so excited in the first place. Then, the witch tosses the box aside, making Krisnina panic for a second, worried all that care went to waste and something inside might break. The witch brushes off Krisnina's worries, saying the box only holds food, Kristina is stunned. Why would normal food get such special treatment? She admits she's never actually tried a cookie before, so the witch tells her she's in for something totally new and might as well try it now. Witch explains these cookies are a reward for Kristina's hard work, but warns not to eat them all at once, since they're a real treat. Things start to feel friendlier between them. She hugs the box, looking honestly touched by the small kindness, and mumbling a thank you. Spotting Kristina's shy reaction, the witch jokes that she finally looks like a kid enjoying something simple for the first time. She glances back at the crate and freezes, caught totally off guard by what's inside. The witch says once Kristina's done hauling in the rest, it'll be time for a proper break. There's cookies and milk waiting. Now carrying 2 boxes at once, Kristina heads farther out, pushing herself to get the job finished. Kristina finally sits down at the table, eyeing her first cookies surrounded by drinks and treats. She sits at the table, feeling a little nervous, and thanks the witch for the treat, grateful but not quite sure how to act. She sits at the table, holding her first cookie, clearly nervous about trying it. Finally, Kristina tries her first tiny bite, wanting to really taste it and make the moment last. A huge animal eye opens wide, catching sight of Kristina out in the clearing. She takes a bite of the cookie and just beams, finally letting herself enjoy the treat. Witch takes a slow sip of her tea and lets herself relax for a moment. She carefully opens the box at the table and lets herself smile, finally excited to try the treat. As Kristina tries her first real cookie, the story flashes back to her in chibi form eating something simple. She stands there amazed, reminding us how new and special this moment feels compared to her usual days. She steps outside with her armful of greens, barely noticing the giant animal standing right behind her. Showing off a bunch of fresh greens, Kristina encourages her companion to keep going and survive in this world, even as he stays cautious about what might come. A hammer and wrench symbol pops up in the border here, marking another quick story break before we get back to Kristina and her big animal problem. A fluffy animal silhouette appears with the reminder, survive here using only your skills. The story keeps coming back to this point. Kristina isn't waiting for a miracle. She knows every move matters. Another hammer and wrench border flashes, holding the story in place just before things pick up again. The creator's name, Nonoka Hinata, shows on the screen, pausing the story to give credit. But it's clear Kristina's tough journey in this world is just beginning. The familiar hammer and wrench border flashes again, signaling another short pause before moving forward. This panel just gives a copyright notice for the ebook with no story action. Outside, Kristina stands holding her greens while a giant shadowy animal looms up behind her. She and her partner carry in their haul, watched by the huge horse and a small bird as the story repeats its main point. Surviving here isn't just about luck. It's about working together and using your skills, even when you're still figuring each other out. A tiny bird darts across an empty sky as everything sits quiet, like the world's on pause right before something big goes down. The checklist pops up again, showing most of the items still left. They're not done yet. A single white circle sits against the sky. The story kicks off by putting Kristina's skills and survival in the spotlight. She's about to face new obstacles, and each challenge on the list is waiting for her to deal with it. One guy gets cleared of working with the serial kidnappers, but people are still upset since his part in the whole mess was out of line. Watts' testimony leads to one man getting 6 months of hard labor, with the court calling him out for using his status to break the rules. It comes out that the Magic Guild actually hired thugs themselves, so now the city has to clean up after a big scandal. Kristina watches the drama, but says as long as she gets paid she can put up with the bad press. People keep arguing over blame, but she stays focused on what matters to her. She walks back in and lets everyone know she's home. The main crisis is finally over, and the group feels like they're getting a fresh start. She says she parked the house carriage in a safe spot near Georis' shop, but worries about the cost to keep it there. She handled the big problem, but now she's got another headache to fix. While some went to grab supplies for building, Purupi and Isa finish sightseeing and arrive back at the door. A little bird-like spirit shows gratitude to Isa for sticking by their senior, and even though it was tiring, the group really values the help. She tells Purupi she'll finally build that house, promising to get started right away, and Purupi lights up at the idea. A spirit explains that in their realm, picking a spot is like calling it home. She figures out they don't have to keep the inside and outside totally separate anyway. Purupi actually loves the idea of building from scratch, so together they get to work brainstorming the perfect spirit house. She jumps right in, telling Purupi to leave the building to her, and getting motivated to start the project herself. She grabs her saw and starts cutting wood for the new house, getting completely into the first step of the build. Kristina lines up the cut wood pieces on the ground, making sure every part matches her design. She fits another wooden wall into place, piecing the new house together section by section. She stands back and reveals the little house she just finished building. She proudly shows off her finished spirit house. She explains each box room works on its own and points out that you can move or separate them, making it easy to switch things up. She goes further, showing that anyone in the house can shift the boxes around to change the layout anytime they want, making the design totally flexible. Rupi doesn't waste a second and darts inside to check out the house from the inside, clearly excited to see how it feels. Once inside, Parupi takes a look around the space, taking in every handmade detail. The kids check out the inside of the handmade house, impressed by the curtain nook and shelves. As Parupi settles in, he admits adding furniture really does make the place feel cozier. A nearby bird spirit seems to give its own approval too. Impressed, Parupi jokes that Krisnina must be part dwarf since her building skills are so good, and she's surprised anyone picked that up just by watching. A spirit tells Krisnina that dwarves used to be really close with spirits, so that's why some traits run strong in their people, even beyond what they look like now. She cracks a joke about being short thanks to that trait, but the boy jumps in to correct her. The whole thing just makes her laugh more. The spirit explains people's race is where their natural traits come from, and then offers to give Krisnina her own blessing if she's interested. She double-checks to make sure taking a blessing won't suddenly change her, and the spirit reassures her it only works if she wants it. She quickly says yes, and the spirit even seems a bit caught off guard by how fast she agrees. The boy sits quietly, looking at his hand, amazed at the strange new feeling. She kneels on the ground, staring at the puppet as it slowly starts spinning in her hand. She watches, surprised, as the tiny spirit floats closer and glows right in front of her face. Right away, Krisnina can tell her crafting skills improved, like something inside her just turned up a notch, making her even better at building things. The spirit thanks her and calls the blessing a gift for building such a nice house. Krisnina is so happy, she gives the spirit a quick hug right there. She and the spirit realize there's been a mix-up. She meant for the house's gift to be the fountain pen, not whatever the spirit just gave. The spirit admits they can't make the pen just yet, since they need special materials, so their fellow spirits are out searching for the right pen shaft, because it needs to be perfect. She grins, clearly excited about the idea of a new pen, and actually looking forward to what the spirit will bring. One of the kids mentions picking up hints of spirits near an old bridge, while everyone's hanging around. A kid brings up the need for repairs in the northern part of town, steering the group's attention there. A covered wagon rattles back through the streets, and folks start gathering, showing the travelers have returned. Now, Krisnina sits outside on a bench with a kid on her lap, and a bird on her shoulder, looking pretty pleased after everything that's just happened. The two kids get excited when they spot the bird on Krisnina's head, and start gushing over how cute it is. One child points out that most people lose the ability to see spirits as they grow up, but some can still spot Isa, while the littlest spirit goes unnoticed. The spirit calls Krisnina over, and walks her around the corner toward the bridge, ready to show her where the real problem is. She looks up, and finally spots the bridge they're supposed to fix. The spirit points to it hanging above them, and both take a second to figure out just how much work it'll take. She realizes she's actually seen this bridge before, and the spirit quietly confirms it, so neither of them is shocked by where they ended up. Krisnina and the others notice that both houses linked by the bridge are empty, so they figure it should be fine for them to work on the repairs. A tough-looking man breaks in and demands to know what Krisnina is doing by the bridge, putting her on the spot in front of everyone. She answers plainly that she's just looking at the bridge, letting her words hang while she waits to see what happens next. The man starts explaining the bridge was once called the Dancing Bridge, which surprises Krisnina. She tries the old name out loud as he tells her that's what people used to call it, hinting there's a story she hasn't heard. He explains softly that young children used to play on that bridge with fairies and spirits, since kids were the only ones who could see those magical creatures. The young spirit suddenly gets impatient and pushes Krisnina to hurry up and explain what they're doing here. She admits someone asked her to fix the bridge. The man sounds suspicious and presses her to explain exactly who she means. The tough-looking man finally introduces himself as Duril and makes it clear he's pretty important around here. So now Krisnina knows exactly whose attention she's caught. One of the locals tries to warn Krisnina that this area isn't the safest. One of the locals shoots Krisnina a sharp glare, clearly not thrilled by how she's handling things. Her little companion gets tired of the back and forth and bluntly tells Daryl to just give them permission so they can get going. Daryl folds his arms and tells everyone to quit their yapping. She gently scoops up her little bird companion, and it tilts its head with a curious chirp. She finally tells Parupi, her companion, to be quiet, and swings her arm, sending both him and the bird flying across the spot, leaving everyone a little surprised. She looks totally baffled when her assistant freaks out and demands to know what she's doing. Since Krisnina thought she barely tossed him at all, she's assistant just stands there staring at her in shock, totally thrown off by what she just did. She fumbles for words, saying she was just trying to keep Parupi from whining anymore, but now Everyone just seems more confused than before. It clicks for Daryl. He figures out Krisnina was talking about her special companion when she mentioned that certain being. He calls her out for chucking him like it's normal, which only makes things more tense, as neither side backs down. Daryl grits his teeth, annoyed at how strange and awkward everything's gotten so quickly. He finally gives in, tells Krisnina to follow him, and leads the group away, signifying he's willing to let her explain herself further. The group's work zone sits tucked between stone buildings, with the bridge looming overhead, and everyone keeping an eye on the next step. They squeeze through the narrow entrance, with Krisnina and Daryl heading inside the stone building together. Daryl calls over to the elders inside, announcing he's brought in a new visitor, putting all eyes on Krisnina. The elders look at Krisnina, guessing where she came from, since none of them recognize her. They trade quiet guesses about her being an outsider. Daryl lays out the situation, explaining Krisnina is here because she wants to fix the dancing bridge for someone else. The elders are openly skeptical, not trusting her motives yet. She admits she can't show physical proof of who sent her, but she insists it's an important request. An elder points out the bridge is so damaged, almost nobody believes it can be fixed. One of the older locals warns Krisnina that if the bridge completely collapses, they'll never be able to rebuild anything there again, making everyone realize how risky her repairs are. Daryl explains the bigger issue. By law, new houses can only go up if 2 or more empty lots sit together. If the bridge gets destroyed, the whole neighborhood is at risk of being emptied out and replaced. She suddenly realizes that a failed repair could mean everyone here would be forced out of their homes, which is way worse than she expected. She promises right away to keep the bridge standing, swearing her repairs won't force anyone out. Krisnina wants everyone to know she's on their side. The elders seem caught off guard by her boldness, but Krisnina stands by her skills and says she's ready for the challenge, leaving everyone in suspense. An elder, still a bit unsure but low on options, tells her to go ahead and try repairing the bridge herself. She quickly takes charge and claims a local as her assistant, which surprises him. He agrees to help, but warns they'll be watching to make sure she doesn't mess things up even more. Her future here depends on how the next steps go. She and her assistant haul a heavy plank together. She calls the team to start repairs right away. The locals are worried but decide to follow her lead, waiting to see if she can actually pull it off. She climbs up the ladder with her assistant. A local looks at Krisnina's repairs and is honestly surprised she knows how to use the support so well, starting to believe she's actually skilled with this kind of work. She tells her assistant to wedge stones into the cracked parts, showing everyone her quick fix for the broken bridge pieces. She keeps going, filling in the patched areas with more solid materials, showing off her construction know-how right in front of the whole group. She calls out for her assistant to pass her some materials, keeping the work moving smoothly as everyone watches. She holds up her hands, proud that the blessing helped her finish the tricky patch job easily. She even managed with just a wooden spatula, not a real building tool. Taking charge, Krisnina clears away all the leftover debris from the bridge, making sure there's a good surface to rebuild on before moving to the next step. While fixing up the bridge, Krisnina decides to add new handrails for extra safety, coming up with new improvements on the fly as she sees what needs doing. She carves grooves into the bridge surface so people don't slip, always thinking about who might be crossing and what could go wrong. With all those repairs in place, Krisnina announces the bridge is safe again. She jumps straight to the next job, fixing up the damaged house nearby. For busted windows, Krisnina switches things up by using rainbow hopper hindwing glass, framing it with a stripe of gold, so even the repairs end up looking like an upgrade. Outside, the stone bridge stands solid again, showing Krisnina's repair work is holding up after all the trouble. One of the adults stares in disbelief. More locals come up to check it out and start telling the others how amazing the repairs look, giving Krisnina real credit for her skill right there in front of everyone. Krisnina barely finishes saying the bridge is open before someone in the crowd slips away, eager to get moving again now that the way is clear. Hearing the others found materials for the fountain pen shaft, Krisnina tells Issa to join her and get set for more building work ahead. She glances up and spots a spirit gliding past the rooftops, realizing that these spirits really do their own thing, no matter how stressed out everyone else might be. Someone sees how tired Krisnina looks and tells her to take a break for food, but she waves that off, saying she has more cleaning to finish first. Before Krisnina can worry about the leftover cleanup, one of the guys steps in, promises to take care of it later, and steers her toward the group meal instead. A feast gets set out and everyone cheers Krisnina on to dig in, turning the repair job into a chance for the whole group to celebrate together. As Krisnina sits at the table, a couple of the locals start bragging about how she managed to haul support logs and move heavy stones on her own, shocking everyone nearby. Conversation shifts to how bold Krisnina was for working in the Northern District solo. She says she did prep with magical paper just in case, not trying to brag, but some adults are still convinced she's got a special knack for things like this. She brings up how she almost got kidnapped once, but managed to take down the ringleader on her own. This leaves her friends speechless, and everyone else starts treating her with even more respect. One local suddenly gets worried, asking if their own people are under suspicion for the kidnapping mess. Another person at the table explains that troublemakers in the northern district ignore the elders and do their own thing, which keeps fueling these problems. One of the locals promises they'll help search for whoever was involved in the kidnapping, making it clear there's no tolerance for that kind of crime. Clearly impressed, one local asks Krisnina to take on more repairs as a paid job through the Adventurers Guild, and points out there are plenty more houses needing work, opening more doors for her. She admits she works at the Adventurers Guild because girls can't officially do carpentry, which surprises one local, and gets another questioning her whole adventurer status. The locals start venting about how even longtime residents can't catch a break with the city's harsh rules. Everyone suddenly stops and stares at Krisnina, confused about why she just collapsed in the middle of their conversation. She smiles big, bringing up the mood for everyone after all the complaints. They load into a wagon and roll through empty city streets, heading for the next job together. She remembers her time in the Northern District and realizes that even though people there are all different, plenty of them have been pretty nice to her. A little girl pipes up and blurts out that she wants some candy, catching the others' attention. One of the local women laughs and hands over the candy bag, checking if another girl wants some too, and keeping the mood upbeat. The first girl stuffs candy in her cheeks and looks super happy with her prize. She beams and thanks the woman for sharing, her excitement bringing out some smiles. Right then, Krisnina suddenly falls face first onto the floor, totally blindsided and caught off guard. She stares around in confusion, not understanding what just happened. As the shock sets in, she just lies there dazed, still trying to piece together what went wrong. And that wraps up Chapter 3, putting the spotlight right on Krisnina's main challenge. She's got to survive in this world by relying on her own skills and handmade know-how. Just outside, a horse suddenly looks alert, like it senses something's up with Krisnina. The chapter wraps up by hammering home Krisnina's main challenge. She's got to rely on what she can build and fix herself if she wants to survive in this strange new place. Krisnina remembers getting candy and feeling happy, but then realizes that's when everything went black. She comes to on the floor, totally thrown by how she actually got kidnapped. It's a lot to take in since she didn't see it coming. She freezes for a second, as the risk really hits her. She takes a breath, and tells herself she has to handle the kidnappers alone now. She keeps low, and tries to get a read on what's actually going on around her. She checks out the shack, and instantly realizes it's run down and reeks, making her even more aware of just how bad her situation is. There's a damp, earthy smell too. She figures there's only dirt under the shack, which could give her a way to dig out if she has to. She listens for danger, and decides it's clear. She only hears beasts in the distance. Peeking through some cracks, Krisnina realizes she's not near the forest she knows. She must be outside Labyrinth City, on the west side of the woods. She checks her body for injuries, and is relieved to find nothing major wrong. At least she can still move and plan what to do. She double-checks herself again, and can't find any weird marks or damage, but she still isn't sure exactly what happened while she was out. She keeps repeating to herself that she'll be fine, forcing herself to push forward, despite her nerves. She ducks low, getting ready to sneak past the lookout without making a sound. Looking through her pockets, Krisnina realizes someone took the fake magic paper from her chest pocket, but she still has the real one hidden in her inner pocket. She checks her hiding spots, and realizes her backup magic papers are still safe in her hairpin and underwear. Her pouch and boots are gone, but thankfully most of her secret stash is untouched. She's still got tools to work with, even if it's not everything. She is very glad the kidnappers didn't strip off her clothes. That would have made everything way harder. She keeps repeating that she still has what matters most, so she really can handle this. She tells herself she'll be fine, trying to steady her nerves before making her move. She starts thinking through the next problem. These cuffs have to come off if she wants any chance of escaping. Examining the cuffs, Krisnina notices how strange the material is. She starts to worry that messing with them the wrong way could set off a hidden trap. She wedges her cuffed hands into the gap between the floor and the door, straining to force them through. She pulls out her spell card and slides it quietly between her cuffed wrists to prep her move. She figures out that breaking or damaging the restraint could trigger a trap, so whatever she does to get free has to be careful and exact. Looking close at the cuffs, she confirms they haven't reacted to anything yet, so she's safe for now and can keep working. She sits up all the way, staying careful as she prepares to deal with the cuffs. She slaps the magic paper charm onto herself, activating a body enhancement spell to boost her speed for what comes next. She grips her fists tight, barely keeping steady as she gets ready to act. She finally pops the cuff free without setting off any traps, and right away she feels relieved it worked. She snaps the ropes off her wrists and ankles, finally breaking free so she can start her plan. She brushes off her sleeves, finally free from the ropes and cuffs lying on the floor beside her. She sees the restraint on the ground and realizes nothing happened. Turns out there was no trap, so she didn't even need to use her body enhancement spell. She debates whether to hold back, but she knows this is exactly the moment she needs to use her magic, no matter the cost. She puts up a full barrier spell, so she doesn't have to worry about anyone jumping her by surprise, letting her focus on the next step. Thinking ahead, Krisnina stashes her attack magic slip somewhere easy to grab, just in case she needs it fast. She freezes on the creaky floorboards, realizing any noise might give her away. She wraps her feet with leftover rope, figuring it'll help her stay quiet and get a better grip as she moves. She carefully peeks through the cracked door, checking if the coast is clear before making her next move. Stepping out into the cabin, Krisnina finds it's empty and the coast is clear for now. She doesn't want to risk missing anything, so she pulls out a detection spell to check where the kidnappers are hiding before moving any farther. Looking at her detection spell, Krisnina finds there are 10 people up ahead, including 3 kids. She now knows how close the kidnappers must be. Seeing those smaller readings makes Krisnina guess the kids on her spell must be the ones who got taken, and it gets her worried about what she should do next. She realizes there's no way she can fight all 7 kidnappers alone, so she seriously thinks about sneaking away to town and getting help instead. But then it hits her. If the kidnappers notice she's escaped, they'll grab the kids and run, making things a whole lot harder. With her choices running out, Krisnina figures she can't wait any longer and has to act right now. She clenches her fist, ready to move because she knows this has to happen fast. She decides she's not just escaping, she's going to teach these kidnappers a lesson for trying to mess with her. She heads out, focused and set on carrying out her plan to rescue the kids. One of the kidnappers sits right at the cave entrance, leaning on a spear and keeping watch for any trouble. She hides in the bushes and quietly activates her scan spell to check if any kidnappers are nearby. Her detection spell maps out the cave. She spots the guard by the entrance, 6 kidnappers in the front, and the kids kept in the very back. The guard at the front sits crouched with his spear, paying close attention for any sudden movement. She just watches as the spell shoots past, realizing it didn't hit the target. The guard's eyes go wide for a second as the spell slams into him. He collapses to the ground, completely knocked out by Krisnina's sneak attack. She peeks out from her hiding spot and realizes her attack spell actually landed just like she hoped. So now she's watching for what happens next. She keeps steady hands as she lines up her shot, remembering how hard it is to hit with magic paper from far away. She manages to sneak past the first obstacle, squeezing through a crack in the rocks and feeling a tiny bit of relief before whatever comes next. She uses a stealth spell to hide the kids, wanting to make sure they're protected before she deals with anything else. She peeks out nervously from behind cover, waiting to see if her attack actually worked. A group of guards sits around, drinking and chatting, totally unaware that anything's going wrong outside. She slips past the distracted guards while they're busy drinking and talking to each other. Someone spots the kids hiding in the cave and yells out, giving away their location. 2 kids and Krisnina finally get a chance to rest, huddled together under a blanket and fast asleep. She throws up a full barrier and soundproof spell around the room, hoping nothing can get in or hear what happens next. She breathes out and figures her magic setup will hold for now. Inside the barrier, the children stay quietly asleep, protected by Krisnina's magic from anything outside. She gently reassures the kids, promising they won't have to wait much longer, while she heads out to handle whatever threats are left. She knows if her spell fails and someone wakes up, a fight will break out for sure. Krisnina braces herself, hoping her next move lands before any trouble starts. She grips the magic spell paper tight, getting ready to finally use it. The spell takes hold, and the kidnappers drop where they stand, completely knocked out before they understand what's going on. The last kidnapper collapses to the ground, and Krisnina's spell finally knocks everyone out cold. Her eyes go wide as she realizes her spell actually worked, and the threat is finally gone. Wanting to be extra sure there's no way they recover quickly, Krisnina grabs some rope and ties up every last kidnapper by hand. She double-checks the knots and makes sure every unconscious kidnapper is fully tied down. Those old rope-tying tricks from the witch pay off big time. Krisnina's glad she learned them now that things got real. She checks her pouch to make sure nothing's stolen, and sighs in relief. But a second later notices her boots are missing and starts looking around for them. Spotting a small cart stashed nearby, she figures she can haul 3 kids at a time. This could speed up their escape in a big way. She shakes the kids awake, letting them know it's finally time to make their move. She's got a plan for getting everyone out. Some kids worry they'll get caught again if they move, but Krisnina tells them the kidnappers won't be waking up and pushes them to act fast if they want to get home sooner. Now the responsibility is all on her to lead the way out. She reassures the kids with a big smile, telling them she'll carry them back safely. Hearing that, the kids perk up, wipe their tears, and finally agree to go with her. She gathers the kids and tells them to pile onto the cart so they can finally make their escape. Right as Krisnina gets the kids to quiet down, she suddenly senses something watching them from outside, and her whole attitude snaps to alert. Her eyes widen as she realizes something's gone wrong with her spell. She warns the kids to stay completely still. No movement, no noise, and carefully decides to check the entrance herself, knowing there's a real threat outside waiting for them. She presses herself against the cave wall, holding her breath and waiting to see if the spell worked. She freezes and listens hard, worried her spell might have failed, and the monster is still close. A massive red ape with glowing eyes suddenly appears just outside, making it clear there's now a brand new problem right out front. When she sees the red ape standing there, Krisnina realizes things just got a lot worse. The monster isn't supposed to be this close to people, so something is really wrong, and she feels the tension crank up fast. She thinks fast, and remembers that monsters like this sometimes draw even bigger threats out of hiding, like packs of horned bears that could be unstoppable if more show up. She hesitates, stuck for a second, as she tries to figure out her next move. She panics as she realizes her absolute barrier is failing right when she needs it most, so now she has to act before the protection disappears. The giant red ape's glowing eyes cut through the dark as it stalks closer, totally unfazed by Krisnina's spell. Seeing there's no time left, Krisnina digs through her supplies and grabs her emergency spell talisman. She knows this is her only chance and gets ready to use it even though she's never actually had to rely on it before. She pulls out the attack spell she saved for emergencies, admitting she's never dared to test it before because it's so tricky and rare. Lining up her shot, Krisnina gets ready and aims, hoping she can finish off the red ape in one powerful hit. She shouts the spell's name as the paper flares, unleashing her strongest attack. Electric energy fills the air as Krisnina waits for something big to happen, but the result catches her off guard, and she can't tell right away if her plan is even working. The last blast of magic finally clears away the dirt, and Krisnina can breathe for a second. Her spell finally goes off, hurling a giant blast that tears forward with raw power. The red ape gets hit by the swirling magic and swallowed up by the blinding energy wave. The blast finally settles, and all the swirling dirt and magic clear away, leaving the path open. A huge rush of force and swirling dust explodes outward as the magic finally hits full strength. All the magic finally explodes out in a giant spiral, tearing straight through the last of the debris. She looks at the damage and can't believe how much destruction her untested spell caused. Now she's genuinely worried she might have gone way overboard. She just stands there, shocked at how far the spell actually reached and how much it destroyed. A kid breaks the silence, saying they need to get out fast before more monsters show up, which snaps Krisnina and the others out of their daze. Krisnina tells the kids she's okay and tries to keep them calm, promising to handle whatever comes next, even though everyone's still jumpy from what just happened. She hauls the wagon through the woods, rushing the kids toward the safety of the city as fast as she can. Suddenly, 3 wild, glowing-eyed creatures watch from the bushes, just as Krisnina lets her guard down. One of the kids suddenly spots danger and yells out that there are monsters coming. Her spell goes off all at once, blasting out wind and flame as she triggers the magic paper. The kids start gushing over how amazing Krisnina is, but she quickly warns them to keep quiet or else the red apes might show up. Suddenly, heavy footsteps thud closer, and the feeling of something huge chasing them hits home again. They barely catch their breath before realizing they still need to hurry out of the forest. She picks up speed without looking back, pushing herself harder now that every second counts. She presses the magic paper, and a huge blast flares up, forcing the spell to go off. She runs barefoot over rough ground, ignoring the pain because slowing down isn't an option. A kid calls for their big sister, clearly scared and worn out. The whole group is barely holding it together, and they still can't slow down. She sinks into the wagon, realizing this was the first time she's ever stacked so many magical buffs on herself just to pull everyone through. She catches her breath at the back of the wagon while the last bits of dirt finally drop away. She pauses for a split second, doubts rushing in about overusing her magic, but she shakes it off and decides to risk body enhancement anyway. She can't slow down. She finally stops moving, slumping down as the last bits of dirt settle around her. She decides none of the risks matter if she can't get the kids through this. Even a bad backlash is better than letting them get caught now. She slumps down against the wagon, finally letting herself relax now that the chase is over. She pulls the wagon through the city gate, finally bringing the kids to safety inside the walls. She glances up, still looking stunned that they actually made it through in one piece. They finally get out from the trees and into safety, the worst behind them. She leans over, breathing hard, while dust and pieces of the forest slip from her clothes. She realizes it actually worked. She got the kids back to safety in the city, and now one of them calls out for her, shocked she's really there. A huge animal suddenly licks Krisnina right on the face, catching her totally off guard. She looks down and quietly calls out for Peru-chan, worried he might not be there. She sits up in a panic when she sees Peru-chan nearby, but someone tells her not to move too fast since she's still supposed to be resting. Krisnina lights up when she spots Peru-chan, Isa, Perupi, all safe. They try to act casual, pointing out that Krisnina just collapsed, and jokes that she never calls his name, only everyone else's. She glances over, going quiet for a second as she takes in what her companion just said. He smiles and calls Chris by name, saying he took too long to check on her, and Chris looks thrown off for a moment. Chris admits he was just snapping and tells her not to take it too seriously, which eases the mood between them. He insists it's his own fault because he said he'd watch out for her, and you can tell he really means it. Krisnina tries to comfort Chris by explaining she was kidnapped after entering the city, so it's not his fault, and she doesn't blame him. Chris admits he wasn't even supposed to take her into the labyrinth yet, and feels responsible for putting her in danger. He looks down and tells Krisnina she can blame him if she wants, but she gently reminds him she's not even part of his group. As people look on and someone mentions getting her to a room before the doctor comes, Krisnina quietly says she only blames herself for what happened. She explains that Peru-chan never stopped standing guard, so nobody could take her, showing how much support she had, even while out of it. Krisnina tells Peru-chan not to get mad at Chris, since she knows Peru-chan also wants Chris to get better, so there's no point blaming anybody. She gives a shy smile, relaxing a bit now that her friend promised to stay close. A small crowd gathers in the barn doorway as the older warrior carries Krisnina inside, everyone watching quietly. Two townsfolk start praising Krisnina, calling her a hero for saving the kids, and you can tell they're really glad she's alright. Her first question is about the other kids, not herself. It's clear she's worried and wants to know if they're all okay. Chris lets her know all the kids are safe and only tired, which finally lets Krisnina relax and breathe out in relief. Krisnina sits up in bed while the older warrior hands her a cup, making sure she's comfortable before he leaves her alone. She suddenly remembers Chris was supposed to be out exploring the labyrinth and asks why he's not there now. Obviously confused, they explain that a new labyrinth entrance opened on the northern mountain, which changed everything and brought him back here. Krisnina realizes another entrance means the monsters could get out, and Chris says he hurried back as soon as he heard she might have been kidnapped. She asks if there really was a monster outbreak, and Chris says the team found her at the west gate, while everyone was searching outside the city, so tension was high. While one person lets everyone know the doctor finally arrived, someone else reassures the group that the Nihon team went north to check the forest, trying to keep people calm. She lies back, still bundled in blankets, finally resting as the commotion settles down around her. The doctor tells Krisnina her leg injury is serious, explaining they had to pick stones out of her feet and stitch them up. One of the older men asks the healer to look after Krisnina. They warns Krisnina that the security force wants to question her next. He checks if she's up for it, and she quietly agrees, bracing herself for more trouble. One of the investigators steps forward and apologizes for having to question Krisnina now, even though it's obvious she's completely drained after everything that just happened. She sits bundled in blankets, surrounded by several investigators who clearly aren't ready to leave her alone just yet. She starts her story, saying she grabbed a shared carriage from the northern mountain area to get where she needed, setting up how she even showed up at the scene. She explains step by step. She found the lost kids, part of the forest ended up scorched, and she fought off a red ape using magic paper before loading everyone onto a cart and heading for safety. The investigators pick apart her story, guessing that leaving a kid behind was meant as a distraction. Using the shared carriage got them past checkpoints, and it might have all been planned to cover up a kidnapping. Krisnina, voice shaky, asks if the kids made it back to their parents. One of the investigators blurts out that the Nihon group totally lost it and kidnapped someone important, which shocks Krisnina and leaves her reeling about what could happen next. She just sits there frozen, staring wide-eyed as things totally spin out. The angry group turns on the security team, threatening to destroy the town if their waifu got hurt, and their outburst makes even the officers on edge. Someone else points out that all this yelling ends up spreading talk of a monster outbreak, making people outside panic even more. An investigator asks who this waifu even is, and Krisnina feels herself shrink in embarrassment, hoping the subject drops fast. One older investigator gently pats Krisnina on the head and promises to protect her, which makes her blush and look away in front of the whole group. That promise hits a nerve for Krisnina. She admits she doesn't really trust anyone else in this place, and you can tell she finally lets her guard down needing someone safe for once. One of the investigators gets stressed about reporting trouble, but another says they have to alert the guild anyway, pushing the decision forward. Someone mentions that along with reward money, Krisnina is about to get more thanks from the families involved. One nervous investigator looks away, clearly feeling awkward with how tense the room has gotten. One of the adults calls out that Krisnina is completely exhausted and tells the group to go home for now. The older investigator, admitting he might be more of a hassle than help, tries to lighten things by saying he'll look after Krisnina like a dad, making her laugh as the tension eases up. She jokes about their age difference, which gets a half-annoyed face from him, but their banter makes the room feel more relaxed and safe. Still feeling nervous, she quietly asks the investigator to stay near her until she falls asleep, and he promises he won't leave, giving her some peace. One of the kids quietly admits Krisnina is unusually honest. The older investigator quietly sits by Krisnina's bed while she finally gets some real rest. A cheerful visitor suddenly pops in, asking Krisnina about her injuries, and just like that, the topic shifts from drama to checking up on how she's healing. She recognizes Daryl right away and asks how he tracked her down, realizing he's a known figure now that everything happened in Labyrinth City, so her private recovery just got more attention. Daryl starts praising Krisnina for saving kids trapped in the same trouble, calling her a hero, but she cringes, wishing he'd ease up on all that praise. Suddenly the visitor leans forward and apologizes, dropping their head straight down and startling Krisnina. One of the girls admits she feels guilty, saying if she'd actually checked on Krisnina before, she might have caught the swapped carriage and spared her all this trouble. She tries to shake off the guilt in the room, reassuring him she's okay and telling him not to worry, hoping to get everyone back on track. The investigators report they tracked down the thugs behind the kidnappings, but those guys slipped away before they could be caught. So the real trouble isn't over. She hears that the kidnappers have been tracked down. Turns out the thugs are just foot soldiers for a gangster named Ori, who runs a big part of the slums. Ori used to be an adventurer, but failed, and now doesn't listen to anyone, not even local leaders, which makes everything messier and harder to stop. The investigator steps in and admits they tried to catch the kidnappers and hand them off, but something went wrong with that plan. She sits up in bed as someone pops in and greets her with a loud, "Welcome back, elf." The newcomer pauses in the doorway, looking stiff, and not at all like they're sharing Krisnina's lighter mood. Suddenly, one of the men protests, arguing that Ori isn't a bad guy to defend his reputation before things spiral out of control. One of the girls pipes up to defend the guy in question, pointing out he helped her fix up an empty house over in the northern district. The investigator breaks it down. The woman and kid who tricked Krisnina were from the slums too, and yes, all the kidnappers were working under Ori's orders. One of the girls suddenly shouts out Ori's name, catching the other person off guard and making them flinch. One of the girls explains they teamed up with the security force and the Nihon group to track down the kidnappers. Krisnina looks away, clearly tired of arguing and just wanting this conversation to end. Heavily armed security shows up, threatening to wipe out the whole neighborhood if the kidnappers don't surrender. The crowd freaks out as swords come out, and almost everyone panics, making the whole situation way more dangerous. One of the guys is actually freaked out now, pointing out that even a legit swordmaster thinks these authorities are taking things way too far. One of the guys explains that because most people in the slums live there illegally, the security force isn't really helping them. Krisnina's northern district should be okay. Krisnina tells Daryl that if he's so worried, he might as well just leave, catching him off guard enough that he instantly apologizes. One guy thinks the ones they're after probably escaped to the northern district if the slums got wrecked. A different guy figures the whole kidnapping was just a quick cash grab and promises they'll start searching for them again tomorrow morning to catch up for lost time. She lets out a quiet sigh, finally relieved the awkward argument is over for now. Outside, the camera drifts up to show the roofline of the inn where the awkward argument just happened. Back inside, someone announces the reward for catching the kidnappers will get paid out soon, which lifts the mood and gives everyone a small bit of hope. He adds there's also a government bonus coming because the rescued kids push the case into bigger territory than just a normal crime. One of the girls checks on Krisnina, making sure she's feeling okay after everything. One of the girls suddenly calls out for Krisnina. Another just groans and slumps over in frustration. A cheerful visitor bursts in, saying how happy they are to see Krisnina made it through and that she's all right, showing real excitement to see her safe. One of the girls lets Krisnina know they stopped another person from visiting, and Krisnina quietly thanks her, grateful to get a break from all the visitors for now. Krisnina gets a visit from someone who admits they didn't want to act as a bodyguard, just a friend, and wishes they could have helped more during the search, but other jobs pulled them away right when things got rough. One of the visitors tries to soften things by calling themselves Krisnina's guardian instead of a bodyguard. One of the girls tries to tempt Krisnina into staying at their inn by bragging about the bath, the security, and how she'll personally be there. She just gives them a flat, unimpressed look, clearly not buying the sales pitch. The offer doesn't land, and the girl brushes off the whole bath thing, saying she can skip one for a week if she has to. She cuts in and says she already has someone looking out for her, so she doesn't want any more fuss or extra protection. One of the girls just stands frozen in shock, barely able to call out Krismina's name as the disaster sinks in. They grumble to himself, unhappy that things aren't going at all the way he wanted. Krismina just sits there sulking with her food while someone asks if something happened. She looks down in disbelief at the fat stacks of coins, realizing the cost is 20 large gold pieces. He explains the money is a reward, since Krismina brought the kidnappers in alive, and also beat the red ape, making her a real standout in this mess. Out of nowhere, he asks why the area around the cave got burned so badly, leaving Krismina nervous and searching for an excuse as everyone looks at her for answers. He lowers his voice and says they'll keep her secret, but admits they're worried the Nihon tribe might come after her, now that she's showing unusual magic. Someone starts to wonder out loud if Krismina has some secret powerful mage abilities, since what happened doesn't make sense otherwise. She explains she survived rough times thanks to a witch, who gave her a powerful mage skill, and now she has abilities even the Nihon tribe would pay attention to. She remembers the witch's warning. If anyone asks about her magic papers or technique, she has to give a simple cover story, and not reveal the truth. She says the witch left her one single-use magic paper for emergencies, making it sound like a rare farewell gift, and sticking to the cover story exactly. The listeners are both surprised that such a high-level witch gave her something so strong, and the mood turns to awe about what Krismina survived. She admits she never realized her last resort magic would cause such a huge disaster, and she's still trying to get her head around how wild the aftermath became. Someone explains the magic explosion was so massive it blew the tops clean off 2 peaks, and now everyone realizes just how much trouble that magic really caused. One of them checks to make sure the witch's paper is totally used up, and Krismina tells them it's gone, so nothing like that can happen again. He points out the reward doesn't even begin to cover all the time and work she put into making something that strong in the first place. One of the officials apologizes for doubting Krismina and quickly promises to push for a bigger reward for the rare magical paper she used up. She sits at the table, looking overwhelmed but happy, while everyone turns their attention to her. The balcony sits empty and quiet, showing just how fast everything changed after the fire started. She thanks everyone for helping her out, and says after her goodbyes, she'll leave Geralt, showing she's ready to move forward. Standing at the big doors, Krismina gets ready to say her farewells before heading out of Geralt. One of the guys sighs and wishes Krismina didn't have to leave just yet. One of the crew offers to handle the relocation notice for Krismina and thanks her for making the step stool earlier, which takes her by surprise. Krismina brings up seeing a similar step stool at the West District Guild and asks if Anna requested it, which makes Anna smile and leaves Krismina feeling more seen than usual. A girl points out how hard Krismina has been working, even though she's small, giving her a genuine compliment. One of the women wishes Krismina could stay longer, but tells her not to overdo it, and Krismina reassures everyone she'll be careful. Walking away, Krismina takes one last look at the place and realizes this really might be goodbye. Suddenly, someone shouts that there's a fire nearby, snapping everyone out of their goodbyes and straight into emergency mode. She and the rest rush outside, following the person who points out smoke rising up ahead. One of them spots the smoke behind the rooftops and quickly realizes the fire is close by, right next to Gaori-san's lumber shop. As Krismina runs toward the scene, she gets a bad feeling in her stomach, knowing something is really wrong here. She freezes as someone calls out for everyone to stop by the wagon, realizing she can't just rush ahead. She spots the burning building and all at once realizes that's where her house carriage was kept. The building is already swallowed by flames, with the wooden carriage inside burning up, while black smoke and embers pour out. She stands there in shock, watching her home and all her hard work go up in flames right in front of her. Krismina stands frozen, watching the burning wreck, while everyone else hangs back in shell-shocked silence. She stands stunned, seeing the townsfolk restrain the troublemakers, as she stammers out, why?" unable to process what just happened. One armored townsperson looks over to Chris, worried, and waiting to see what they should do next. She suddenly realizes the burning wreck in front of her is actually her own house. The pain hits hard as she tries to process what just happened. 2 of the troublemakers get pinned to the ground, one looking pretty smug, even after being caught. One of the caught men starts taunting, saying they did exactly what Krismina guessed. They burned her house. The other tries warning him not to stir things up more, making everyone around them even more tense. Krismina recognizes these guys. They're the same thugs who used to hang around Geis, and she can't figure out why they're here making trouble again. One thug blames Krismina, saying they burned down her house because they lost their own home. That just makes everyone even more upset and hostile toward them. She stands frozen, eyes blank as the scene keeps spiraling out of control. Someone demands Kristina explain how she knew about the fire and what happened. The group wants answers so they can understand the disaster. One of the townsfolk breaks the silence and, looking confused, asks Kristina how she even figured out the burning wreck was her house in the first place. A townsfolk spells it out. These guys weren't just trespassers, they were mixed up in a kidnapping too. Nobody's sorry that justice is coming for them. Someone tries to reassure Kristina that she's one of the good ones, even if not everyone trusts her yet. There are honest people like her left. She keeps standing there, still totally stunned by everything she's hearing. She just stands there with her back to everyone, too drained to move or say anything. Someone steps in to admit they know Ruka and the Nihon group weren't the ones at fault, trying to clear up who everyone should really be blaming. Kristina slumps on the ground, totally defeated, while the words "catch criminals" hang over the silence. She insists that Ruka and the others aren't the real problem. They just went too far because they listened to her. Grief finally crashes in for Kristina. She lets out a raw cry, knowing deep down that explaining things won't bring her home back. Sobbing, Kristina cries out for her lost house carriage. Admitting she's lost everything makes her break down even more. She totally breaks down in the middle of the street, bawling so hard she slams her fists into the dirt. Someone tries to reach out to her, but all Kristina can do is cry out that her beloved house is really gone. She shouts in frustration, asking why this happened after all her hard work. The people around her just watch, shocked by how crushed she is. She tells the whole crowd she got kidnapped, fought her way back, tried to finally settle somewhere, but after all that effort, she still lost everything. She breaks, saying she gave everything she had and still lost her home. She totally snaps, screaming that she hates it here. She hates the city and everything about it. Her anger turns to deep sobs, and she struggles for breath, overwhelmed by the crying. She sits alone, her shoulders shaking from quiet sobs. All the emotion has left her drained. Everything goes quiet as everyone stares at Kristina, not sure how to help while she breaks down. She stands frozen, barely able to speak as she starts crying harder in front of everyone. One of the townsfolk pulls Kristina in and tells her she really did her best. As she keeps crying, someone points out Kristina never leaned on anyone for help. She just handled everything herself, and that surprises the group. Now that Kristina has lost it, the townspeople actually notice her struggle. They remember she saved the kidnapped children, realize how unfair this has been for her, and start asking what they can do to help. One of the townsfolk picks Kristina up gently and asks if she can hear something, trying to snap her out of her shock. He hugs Kristina tightly and lets her know everyone's been worried. The rest of the group stands close by, all wanting to help her somehow. Her crying makes it clear just how much pain she's in. She sits, slumped, with tears running down her face, looking totally spent. One local looks at Kristina, clearly unsure what to do to make it better. She finally cracks and admits out loud she can't take any more, showing everyone just how overwhelmed she feels. A small crowd gathers around the charred ruins of the carriage, quietly taking in just how bad the damage is. A couple of the townspeople turn around, suddenly paying attention, as someone calls out behind them. One person steps up and offers to donate some wood for Kristina, giving the whole group a sense of action instead of just watching her suffer. Someone else suggests checking for an extra carriage, and the others start talking about what supplies they could share to help Kristina rebuild. A few workers offer to collect the needed materials themselves, taking responsibility so Kristina won't have to handle everything alone. Another person volunteers to prep the lumber right away, so Kristina will have building materials as soon as possible. The group keeps stepping up. Someone offers scrap fabric for bedding and curtains, making sure Kristina will have home basics too. A townsperson mentions the new carriage is missing a futon, so another quickly offers to sew one for her. She gets pulled into a hug, while Peruchan stands nearby, quietly watching over her. She stands off to the side looking exhausted and unsure what to do next. One of the supportive townspeople gently asks Kristina to stay in Garel a bit longer, honestly wanting her to leave with at least some good memories. One of the townsfolk admits the city's been rough on Kristina, but hopes she won't leave with only bad memories, honestly wanting to make things right for her. A townsperson turns toward Kristina and gets ready to ask her something important. She hesitates before answering, quietly reading the hope on everyone's faces. A couple of the townspeople wait for Krisnina's response, giving her space to decide. Peruchan looks up at Kristina, picking up on how heavy the decision feels for her. One of the armored townsfolk steps up, throwing out a lighthearted comment to ease the tension. Kristina tries to protest, but she's so overwhelmed by Nana's kindness that she just cracks and smiles through her tears. There's no way she can refuse now. One of the townsfolk steps up to apologize for their earlier words. Chris steps up and admits they probably said something they shouldn't have, honestly saying sorry to Krisnina for their part in what happened. Someone calls Chris out on their earlier actions and tells them they need to take responsibility, which Chris accepts, feeling embarrassed but willing to learn from it. Krisnina quietly asks another person to let Ruka know she's okay and not upset, making sure he understands she really doesn't blame him for how things turned out. She can't help but notice that Anna, who always tries to help, is still right there on her side, and that steady support means a lot right now. Krisnina smiles as a cute little charm is clipped onto her braided hair, finally letting herself enjoy the moment. Anna promises Krisnina she'll stand by her no matter what, not for being a hero, but just because she cares about who Krisnina is. One of the armored townsfolk tries to lighten the mood, warning the group not to make Krisnina cry so much or her eyes might melt, and the joke helps break the heaviness, so everyone starts to breathe easier. A woman teases Krisnina about how worked up everyone's getting over her tears, and the whole group starts joking along, finally letting the tension fade away. She finally lets herself relax and smile, happy tears still on her face, as Peru-chan leans in close. The last panel just flashes the series title again, wrapping up this volume with a reminder that Krisnina's story is all about surviving and building a life in another world. Krisnina grins as Anna and Yuria hand her a hair accessory and tell her to enjoy it while she's in town. The chapter closes with an outro card showing a playful animal silhouette and the series title, signaling that Krisnina's DIY spirit will keep her going as this story ends for now. The armored guy glances over, still not convinced Krisnina should be left alone while the group deals with this new problem. One of the armored adventurers admits he's worried about a string of kidnappings lately and asks if someone can look after a little girl named Chris. The horned guard doesn't hesitate. He agrees, explaining that he thinks supporting rookie adventurers is part of the job anyway. Since things are slow right now, he'll keep an eye on Chris and help out. Someone cuts straight to the point, saying Krisnina looks even smaller than expected. Her face tightens, clearly annoyed she's being sized up right away. The group remembers how Krisnina claimed she was traveling by herself, but she honestly seemed way too experienced for someone her age. Thinking back, the guard admits Krisnina never needed much help with chores like gathering herbs. She's quick and works like she's been doing this way longer than him. They end up teaming up for a few jobs, and during those times, he picks up on Krisnina's unusual way of handling things. She never acts helpless. She opens up about her goal. She came to the town of Garel to settle down, but things didn't work out. Now she wants to build a house carriage to try a fresh start somewhere else. The guard seems shocked when Krisnina says she's building a house carriage by herself. He can't believe anyone that young would seriously try that solo. She casually explains that she can just make what they need using her house building skill, which leaves the others a little stunned, since none of them have ever even heard of a talent like that. One of the group thinks back on how Krisnina would drop these oddly adult words into the conversation, which always felt a little off, coming from someone her age. The mood shifts when someone mentions the Nihon group. Krisnina's confidence falters, and she stiffens up, showing this subject cuts closer than she wants people to see. With all these hints and odd moments piled up, the others start whispering their suspicions. Maybe Krisnina is hiding something big, like being a reincarnator. One of the guys admits he underestimated Krisnina, since she actually managed to outsmart Geis and come out on top in that last mess. Even so, the armored guy still worries she's taking on too much working alone, and wonders if it's safe for her. He admits he was hesitant to join the labyrinth at all, not sure his heart was really in it, after hearing Krisnina's plans and risks. Her trick of making magical paper by hand and using it for custom spells shows why she's bold enough to head out on her own, without backup. Right as someone is thinking Krisnina acts too risky, an adventurer yells out that there's trouble. Suddenly, news hits. A new hole has opened in the labyrinth. Orders come down fast. Everyone needs to head back to the upper floors and help the team investigate before something worse happens. When they reach the upper floors, the leader senses right away that something's off. He finds out there's a problem involving Krisnina, waiting just ahead. Upstairs, the armored guard hears that Chris has vanished. That moment hits hard. Everything changes the second he puts it together. He can't stop replaying his own failure. He promised he'd watch Chris but let his guard down, and now guilt starts to sink in. The group falls silent, weighed down by regret and knowing there's no quick fix this time. One of the girls just breaks down crying, totally overwhelmed after seeing what Krisnina managed to build. Desperate, the armored guard wonders if there's anything left he can do to help Krisnina or make things right. He stands stiff, still soaking in how real this weird carriage project just became. After the incident, everyone rallies around Krisnina. Over the next 3 days, people gather higher quality supplies for her house carriage, wanting to support her however they can. But progress stalls. They still don't have a used carriage for the build, so the team can't move forward and ends up stuck at a standstill. One of the guys admits the only reason they got such a nice wagon was because the Nihon group pulled some strings and landed them a deal with the mayor. The whole group just stands there, staring up at Krisnina's finished carriage, completely thrown by how huge and solid it looks. One guy admits he's never seen Krisnina use her house-building skill in person, and Krisnina is surprised anyone really wants to watch her create, since it's so different from just hearing stories. Noticing how Krisnina goes all in and loses awareness while building, someone says they'll watch her back so she doesn't have to worry about staying safe during the work. She lets everyone know she's ready, and the group gets set to finally see her house-building skill in action, right in front of them. She jumps straight into building, and one onlooker is totally stunned, watching just how focused and fast she works. He's left wondering what kind of wild power lets her pull this off, while everyone else just looks on. He simply stands there, trying to take in the weird new carriage Krisnina just built. With the build finished, everyone turns to see what Krisnina has managed to put together. Everyone crowds in to check out Krisnina's work, joking about how impressive her skill is and wondering if her building ability has gotten even stronger since the last time. The same observer can't hide it anymore and just blurts out how amazed he is after seeing Krisnina's power firsthand. This is definitely not a normal day. Someone admits they've never seen anyone use a skill with concentration like Krisnina. During the build, she was so focused, it almost seemed like she was pushing everyone else away. Another group member calls out how exciting it is that Krisnina really finished the whole carriage alone, but she gets embarrassed and tries to play down their praise. People notice this new house carriage is way better than the old one, and Krisnina just shrugs, saying she only kept the strong wagon base. She starts walking everyone through the upgrades. She rebuilt the roof, added a rooftop railing for storage, covered the seats so someone could nap, and included a foldable table, showing how much care she put into the design. A skilled carpenter had already made the inside furniture fit, so getting everything arranged inside the new house carriage goes a lot faster than last time. Since the whole wagon is longer now, Krisnina could add a spare room at the back, which makes the carriage feel like a proper moving house. The upstairs bedroom also gets more space, which means even the second floor now feels comfortable, instead of cramped. She's surprised people put in the effort to get her all new bedding, clothes, and even new underwear. It honestly makes her feel really accepted by everyone around. She points out that the hardest process was carving fire protection spells on the outer walls, and she took extra time making sure the magical safety measures were solid all over the build. Now that the house carriage is complete, someone asks if she's leaving right away. Krisnina explains she wants to buy another horse for the bigger carriage, so she'll stick around a little longer before hitting the road. She is caught off guard when someone reveals they're actually planning a farewell get-together for her, which is something she never expected. She gets a tight goodbye hug from a young girl while her friends look on, trying to hide their mixed feelings. Two guards pause outside under a sign, quietly checking in with each other before heading back inside. A couple of the guards relax inside with food and drinks while someone from the staff checks on them. Hao sits quietly, thinking about how unusual Chris's house-building skill is, especially since it's rare, even in this world. She used to be scared she'd be in danger while building, but now realizes her skill actually creates a shield, turning her old fear upside down. Her house-building ability stands out as something really rare. If she uses it right, it could be powerful, but if she messes up, things could easily go wrong. Still, since Chris sometimes acts reckless, someone feels it's important to look out for her, especially since there's suspicion she might even be a reincarnator. She is focused, putting everything she has into building. Someone nearby feels a real push to stay by her and help her when she needs it. Watching the scene from outside, Hao starts to realize that rolling along in this odd house carriage with Krisnina might end up being pretty fun after all. Krisnina gets the rundown on her new pen. It's made from rare materials and the magic lets her shape the nib however she wants. Hao brings up that the horse with them is the same one he brought, but reminds Krisnina she promised to help find another one for the big wagon. He's really hoping this solution works well for Peru-chan, but travel with a group isn't always easy. He admits he's worried because the horse actually has a picky personality, so he's not sure how things are going to go from here. The two horses just lean in close together, totally ignoring the awkward drama while hearts and cheesy sparkles fill the background. Hao cracks up when he sees the horses getting along so well, while Krisnina turns to Peru-chan, surprised at how easily everything worked itself out without their help. Watching the horses pair up, Krisnina blurts out that it feels like seeing your own parent get randomly flirted with, which just leaves Hao totally confused and caught off guard. Deciding to change topics, Krisnina asks if Hao's horse is actually a dragon horse, trying to wrap her head around what kind of magical creature they're taking with them. Hao explains he's careful with that expensive dragon horse because showing off a fancy animal like that would just bring bandit trouble, so usually the horse stays with someone else instead of joining every trip. She points out that traveling as a girl by herself already attracts attention and risk, so adding anything flashy just makes the whole trip a bigger target. Hao tells Krisnina not to worry, and hints he already has a backup plan for their travel issues. but leaves her wondering what exactly he's thinking. Out of nowhere, Hao reveals he's considering leaving Garel to hit the road with Krisnina. She's caught completely off guard by this, since it could totally change the group and their trip. She just kinda blanks out for a second, totally confused by how strange things have gotten. Hao shrugs off Krisnina's panic, saying there's no backing out now because he already turned in his notice to leave. The decision's final whether she likes it or not. Krisnina is stunned by Hao's sudden offer to travel together, and she can't find the words to respond right away. She immediately points out that a random adult traveling with a girl her age looks super sketchy, and says there's just no way people would see it as normal. She just stands there, completely blank, still trying to wrap her head around how awkward this whole fake dad plan feels. He just stares at her, clearly thrown off now that things have turned so awkward. He suddenly gives in and decides to drop the act, saying he'll finally tell Krisnina what his real mission is. He tells Krisnina he originally came to the city because the central government sent him, but his main job wrapped up before he got here. Because of all the unexpected stuff that happened, now he feels free to leave and join her group. There's more. Besides his official job, Hao was told by someone else to keep tabs on the group from Nihon. That's why he joined the big labyrinth raid. He's actually been working undercover on another task the whole time. She just stands there, totally spaced out, with a bird perched on her head. Hao explains that if he travels with Krisnina, he can dodge the government's annoying solo adventurer rules and refuse extra jobs he doesn't want to do. He decides he'll just pretend Krisnina is his daughter to make things easier, but she immediately shoots that down, since their ages don't even line up. She tries to salvage things by suggesting maybe she could act as his little sister, but remembers that they're not even the same race. Both get flustered as their story keeps falling apart, while Paripi loses patience with their nonsense. She finally gives up on making excuses and just decides she'll tell everyone she's quitting her old life to join a new party instead. He just stands there with this smug grin, totally convinced his fake dad plan is genius. Krisnina calls out Hao for acting smart, flat out telling him his plan was actually pretty dumb and not fooling anyone. Annoyed, Hao snaps back at Krisnina for being so blunt, and just like that, the two start bickering instead of solving anything. She snaps right back at Hao with a comeback, basically throwing his insult back in his face and not backing down for a second. She just stares, totally thrown off as the weird fake dad plan sinks in. She starts thinking for real. If someone from the central government is poking around to see if Garel could become its own country, it's not just politics that bother her. She's worried this official could be snooping into the Nihon group, and if he figures out she's actually a reincarnator, it'll mess up everything. Even with everything that's happened, Krisnina presses in close, holding on tight instead of letting go. A small bird lifts off into the sky, leaving the group behind as the journey moves forward. A little bird suddenly lands on Hao's head and chirps, snapping him out of his daze. One of the kids turns to Issa with a question, looking for her take now that everyone is watching and weighing in on Krisnina's plan. One of the kids meets everyone's encouragement with a shy smile, still processing all the fuss around her. She finally gives in and agrees to help out with the group, even calling Elf by name. Someone on the side immediately gets excited, already treating them as teammates. The view shifts outside to the shop sign, showing where everyone is gathered for this meeting. The townsfolk throw a farewell party, passing out food and encouraging everyone to eat up. They want the group to feel supported before they leave. Everyone crowds around Krisnina, wishing her luck as she gets ready to leave with the wagon. More townsfolk squeeze into the circle, all smiling and wishing Krisnina well as the goodbyes keep coming. One of the younger kids calls out to Krisnina, grabbing her attention just as she's about to leave. A baby blurts out aloud, "Oh wah," right in the middle of the farewell crowd, making everyone pause and look over for a second. One of the younger kids clings tightly to Krisnina, clearly not ready to say goodbye yet. Still hugging her, the child finally manages to thank Krisnina for saving them and admits how scared they used to be. This is when everyone's true feelings finally come out. The woman explains that some were worried meeting Krisnina again might bring up old fears, but in the end, everyone really wanted to see her and let her know how grateful they are. One of the younger kids tries to put on a brave face, smiling even as their eyes fill with tears. She wraps up the hugs, quietly thanking everyone for showing up to see her off. She tries to lift the mood by inviting the kids over to eat something good. One of the kids instantly shouts about how tasty it'll be, making everyone laugh. Two townspeople lean closer to Krisnina, flashing big smiles that make the group's farewell even warmer. The group stands together in silence, watching as Krisnina gets ready to leave, soaking up the moment. Krisnina pauses outside in the morning light, taking a final look back before stepping away. One of the girls hangs back by the wagon, quietly watching as everyone finishes loading up for the trip. One of the adults stands by the harnessed horse, making sure everything's ready before Krisnina heads out. Someone jokes about Krisnina teaming up with Elf and warns her that if Ruka hears about this partnership, things might get complicated. Before she leaves, the group cheers for Krisnina, reminding her to work hard but not push herself too much. With that, she steps out, feeling both nervous and supported. One of the villagers looks surprised that Krisnina is driving the wagon herself and suggests maybe Eve should take over instead, putting all eyes on her as she gets ready. Aif steps in, grinning, and jokes that he's only the backup driver. After all, Krisnina built this wagon with her own hands. Since it's her creation, she should take it out first. His words put the group at ease, and Krisnina gets a proud moment behind the reins. One of the younger kids just stares up at Krisnina, looking totally caught off guard by all the fuss. Aif explains his plan for sleeping during the trip. Outside if it's nice, inside if it rains. But Krisnina suddenly hugs him mid-sentence. Caught off guard, Aif asks what's up, realizing Krisnina's nerves are showing as the journey actually begins. She stares wide-eyed, caught mid-laugh, while her little companion clings to her shoulder. As the morning chill settles, the group gathers and loads up the wagon. Someone signals it's time to head out, so Krisnina and the others climb aboard. Horses stamp in their harnesses, townsfolk wave from the side, and the real start of their adventure begins. The wagon starts rumbling beyond the town edge, horses pulling the group out toward the mountains. She sits at the table with a little smile. During the ride, someone points out how the area's unusual buildings might help Krisnina level up her house-building skill. Just seeing them could spark new ideas for her projects. The group talks about skill growth. They explain skills improve the more you use them, but Krisnina points out building real houses doesn't happen much. That gets them all thinking about how she can keep getting better as they travel. One friend suggests just checking out all kinds of houses in different places could help raise Krisnina's building skill. That idea surprises her. You can hear the hope in her voice as she starts picturing new ways to level up. Krisnina checks in with Issa to see if she's excited for the new trip. Issa chirps back, and everyone laughs, feeling a little more relaxed as the journey kicks off. She checks that Parupi is joining the trip too, and Parupi immediately confirms. So the group's lineup is officially set. The wagon horses snort and toss their heads, pulling the group out past the edge of town. Krisnina sits beside her smiling friend, a bird perched on her shoulder, and a plushie riding on her head as they continue their journey out of town. Everyone agrees to stick together as a team, setting the promise that nobody gets left behind through whatever's ahead. The wagon rolls out past the last fence, taking everyone down the open road toward whatever comes next. The wagon rolls away from the last fence, leaving the open road and hills stretching out ahead. The last scene fades out on an empty road, leaving the group's path open to whatever comes next. The last page just fades out on a quiet scene with "The End" written, letting everything settle. A bright title panel pops up, signaling the end of Volume 3. Krisnina's journey from making a new life with her own skills closes this chapter, now surrounded by friends on the road. She smiles out from the goodbye page, and the manga team leaves a thank you note, letting readers know they appreciate everyone joining them so far. A plain blue border marks the official end, separating the story from the extras that follow. The book ends with a special author's comment, where they thank the readers and the team for helping bring Krisnina's journey to life, and mention how much the story's growth meant to them. The final bonus page shows two chibi figures celebrating. The main series title stands out, reminding everyone this is all about surviving and building a new life in another world with Krisnina's skills. She rides off waving, ending the volume on a bright note as the team continues pushing forward in their new world. A turquoise-patterned border with tool icons splits off the story's ending and marks the start of the extras. The last page closes with a simple blueprint and two animal silhouettes, giving a soft finish to Krisnina's journey for now. The patterned turquoise border with little tools in the corner splits off the ending, signaling the story's officially wrapped and the extras are about to start. The creator steps in to thank everyone who read along and supported Krisnina's journey. They sign their name and remind readers that this world still has more stories and adventures to come. This page gives a simple reminder not to copy or share the ebook without permission. She rides away, waving to her friends as the cover closes. The real goal here isn't just power, it's building a future together. The book wraps up, but there's more to their journey ahead. Please support the official release.